Chapter 1168. The Place of Origin, the Origin of Everything. Liu shook his head helplessly. I still want to feel what the origin is and see if it can deepen my understanding of the road of chaos. Unfortunately, I can't feel anything. In Liu's eyes, this chaotic void was no different from the chaotic void that could be seen everywhere in the universe. In addition to being unable to control the laws of heaven and earth in this void, Liu did not find anything that could make him feel anything. Forget it, let's find a way to go back. Liu got up and walked around in this boundless chaotic void, searching everywhere, constantly looking for a way home. However, there was nothing. In this void, there was nothing. I don't believe it. Liu gritted his teeth and released hundreds of millions of doppelgangers. Find it for me. Don't let go of an inch. I don't believe that I can't find the way. Hundreds of millions of doppelgangers swept in all directions. Liu searched around the place of origin. Time continued to pass. Years were not recorded in the chaos. After an unknown amount of time, perhaps hundreds of millions of years, Liu finally found something. Somewhere in the endless void, one of Liu's doppelgangers saw a scene. I have been imprisoned for 10,000 years and expelled from my hometown. You are seeking your own death. A demon with 2 horns on his head, a pair of wings on his back, and black gas surging all over his body, roared into the sky, holding 2 crescent blades in his hands. Illidan? What's going on? Hundreds of millions of doppelgangers merged in an instant. Liu looked up at the scene in front of him and was dumbfounded. Illidan is Illidan. It's better than nothing here. Without hesitation, Liu quickly rose into the air and rushed in the direction of Illidan. As if a virtual image, Liu rushed to the place where Illidan was and actually passed through, directly destroying the image of Illidan. Okay. I knew it wouldn't be so easy. Liu shook his head gloomily. But this discovery still excited him. Even if we don't succeed this time, there will be a time when we succeed. Since this place was known as the Land of Origin, the scene that appeared just now was naturally a world. As long as I can leave this place, I will be able to return home no matter which world I go to. Liu slapped his forehead and released billions of clones to search the Land of Origin. My name is Alice. I'm from the Umbrella Corporation. After an unknown period of time, Liu saw another image appear. Without waiting for Alice to finish speaking, he rushed over. The image was destroyed again. Mangekyo Sharingan. The image that had just been born was destroyed again. Time continued to pass, and Liu discovered all sorts of images of the world in the Land of Origins. However, as soon as Liu rushed over, all of the images were destroyed without exception. From these images, I also discovered a pattern. These images are from various movies, various games, various anime, but none of them are from novels. Liu frowned tightly. All the worlds that I've transmigrated to before were all novel worlds. So, I can only enter the novel world? Only after the Land of Origin gives birth to the image of the novel world can I leave? But there is a very crucial question here. Why can I only enter the novel world? System, why are all the worlds that I transmigrated to novel worlds? Liu suddenly realized that all the worlds that he transmigrated to so far were all novel world. What is the problem here? Insufficient authority. The system will only be able to answer this question after the user is promoted to the 3rd level of authority. Alright. Liu shook his head helplessly. So far, all the doubts that Liu discovered, the system didn't give an answer. The answer can only be found by myself? Then, let's continue to search. One by one, his doppelgangers were scattered in the void. They were constantly searching and searching in the boundless void. After an unknown amount of time, Liu finally made another discovery. This is a world? What kind of world is this? After destroying countless images, Liu didn't rush forward in a hurry. Instead, he stood nearby and observed carefully. In the void before him, another image appeared. It was a giant. An incomparably huge giant. This giant was lying in the void. On the giant's chest area, there was a huge sphere of light. Inside the sphere of light was a vast starry sky, a huge world. Around the giant, there was a layer of clear air. Similarly, there was an endless starry sky surrounding this giant. The sphere of light on the giant's chest area and the clear air surrounding it looked like an egg. The sphere of light was pale yellow and the clear air was egg white. A giant was lying in the egg. What is this situation? Could it be Pangu? In Li Yu's impression, this egg-shaped world, this giant, the only one that could match was Pangu. Pangu? The Pangu of the novel world? Or the Pangu of another world? Pangu was a character that had appeared in countless movies and games. Li Yu couldn't tell where he came from. In fact, he wasn't even sure if this was Pangu. Strange. Why do I suddenly feel that this giant seems to have some karma with me? Seeing this giant, Li Yu suddenly had an inexplicable feeling in his heart. It seemed that there was a faint karma connection between him and this giant. I can't see it clearly. I don't know if it's due to the influence of the land of origin or some other reason. The karma between me and this giant can't be seen clearly yet. Li Yu shook his head, but a smile appeared on his face. Since there was karma, there was a connection. As long as there was a connection, Li Yu could leave this land of origin. I'm finally free. Li Yu laughed and rushed into the image of the giant. Buzz, as if passing through an inexplicable barrier, the image trembled slightly, but it didn't break. Sure enough, with a karma connection, I can enter, I can leave the land of origin. Passing through an invisible barrier, Li Yu appeared in another world. He had left the land of origin. The connection with the space of the immortal mansion had been restored. The connection with the spiked statue had been restored. The system also prompted in time. Leaving the land of origin, the ability to travel back and forth has been restored. He was finally free. Li Yu let out a long breath. While rejoicing in his heart, he also felt a lingering fear. Traveling through time and space through the statue is really too dangerous. It's just that, where is this place now? Li Yu turned his head and looked around. In addition to the giant and the egg-like world in front of him, this world also had a vast universe and starry sky. Seeing the giant, without the suppression of the land of origin, Li Yu instantly understood karma and saw everything in the long river of time. Ha 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 ha. It's not Pangu at all. It's you. It's you. Li Yu laughed loudly. Chapter 1169. So it's you. Li Yu looked at the sleeping giant and shook his head with a smile. Luo Tian, so it's you. Who was Luo Tian? To be more accurate, this was the first time Li Yu had seen Luo Tian. He had never seen Luo Tian or even heard of the name Luo Tian. However, Li Yu had karma with Luo Tian. Is this still the time when Luo Tian first took control of the vast world? Then, the immortal astral continent was just born? Wang Lin, Wang Yu, Limo, and even Fate and Haozi haven't appeared yet? Luo Tian feared celestials and had turned the vast world into a mess. Then, the god, devil, and ghost each cut off one of his fingers. Then he was destroyed by Haozi. No wonder there is karma. I gave the god's little brother, Wang Yu, a system and straightened out Limo's timeline. He must have karma with Luo Tian. Li Yu laughed. Since there is karma, then let's make the karma even deeper. My Tao of chaos nothingness still needs to be experimented on. Luo Tian was such a strong fellow, wasn't he perfect for an experiment? Li Yu took a step forward, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared in the vast expanse above all heaven. Is Luo Tian being born with the vast world? Looking at Luo Tian below him, Li Yu's eyes lit up. Luo Tian, your posture is so good. I can't help but want to trick you. With a flick of his finger, a ray of light landed between Luo Tian's eyebrows. The light that contained the Tao of chaos merged with Luo Tian's soul. The hole had been dug deep. The Tao of chaos merged with his soul. This kind of supreme comprehension allowed Luo Tian to take control of the world in an instant. Luo Tian had awakened. You are? Luo Tian opened his eyes and found Li Yu standing above him. Feeling the inexplicable, unfathomable, incomprehensible, and unimaginable aura from Li Yu, Luo Tian's body trembled and his heart was filled with terror. Stepping on the true meaning of the heavens, ascending to the peak, I am an immortal. Li Yu's figure disappeared in an instant. Immortal? All heaven was baffled. This immortal gave me a peerless art that allowed me to control the heavens and earth in an instant. Then, he left just like that? An expert's way of doing things was unpredictable. Luo Tian shook his head. What realm is this immortal at? That mysterious and indescribable aura is simply unimaginably profound. When Luo Tian saw the primordial infinitesimal sutra appear in his mind and felt the true words of the great Tao contained within it, he only felt that each word was like a gem, mysterious and unfathomable. It was truly a peerless true inheritance that proved the supreme great Tao. Immortal, you gave me such a true technique, but you turned around and left without saying a word? That's right, at that level, what else could catch his eye? This true art is a supreme treasure to me, but to him, it might be nothing at all. When he thought of this, Luo Tian didn't pay too much attention to Li Yu's actions. In truth, the incomprehensible aura he'd sensed was merely Li Yu's aura when he'd just emerged from the land of roots. Because of that aura, Luo Tian had raised Li Yu's realm to an infinitely higher level. One wrong step, and so on. Luo Tian had fallen into a pit of fire. For Li Yu, this was nothing more than an experiment. I've been in the land of roots for so long that I don't even know how much time has passed. I have to make a trip back as soon as possible. Luo Tian had already dug a hole for himself. All he had to do was wait for the result. More importantly, Li Yu discovered that his timeline was extremely chaotic. He'd spent countless years in the land of roots, then arrived at the time when Luo Tian had first taken control of the vast expanse. Generally speaking, the timelines of other worlds don't affect me. But who knows if the land of roots will affect my own timeline? I'd better go back first. With that thought, Li Yu's figure left the world of the vast expanse and returned to the immortal estate. There's actually no change in time? After returning to the immortal estate, Li Yu suddenly realized that the immeasurably long time he'd spent in the land of roots didn't seem to have existed at all. As expected of the land of roots, the source of everything is naturally the source of time. No matter how long I stay in the land of roots, time doesn't flow at all. A look of yearning appeared on Li Yu's face. The land of roots is the source of everything. It should be on the same level as my primordial chaos. Once I become primordial chaos, I'll also be the source of everything. But there was only one origin, and only one could exist. That's why I have to become primordial chaos and become the source of all things. If I continue down this path, I'll definitely clash with the land of root. If the land of roots was something that had always existed in the myriad worlds, and wasn't the source of some almighty success, then things would be a bit easier. If that land of roots was someone else's root, then he would have to face the attack of that root. Li Yu frowned, as if a dark cloud had shrouded his heart. This was easy to understand. Even if Li Yu himself was the root, if he found out that someone wanted to replace him, he would definitely strangle them. It was impossible for him to be noble enough to sacrifice himself for others. Maybe I'm overthinking it. However, if a person does not have foresight, then there will be immediate worries. We still have to be vigilant about this matter. The plan to use the statue to enter above the heavens had failed. Returning to the era of Heavenly Emperor Huang or the era of Yi Fan through the system, those people's strength had yet to reach its peak, and they did not have the strength to counterattack. After all, Li Yu was going to do experiments, not to help Heavenly Emperor Huang and Yi Fan sweep through the heavens. If there was no benefit in fighting to the death, then there was no need to go. So, I have to find a suitable place to do experiments. Thinking back to what he had done to Luo Tian, Li Yu's eyes lit up. System, can I enter the mountain and sea realm? Can I enter Meng Hao's era? After digging a hole for Luo Tian, Li Yu naturally wanted to take a look at the results of the experiment. Most importantly, the mountain and sea realm's heaven-sealing magic, and the fact that Haozi was the son of all heaven, had severed himself and transcended, would serve as a useful reference for Li Yu's next step of transforming his body into primal chaos. On the path of cultivation in that world, in the process of spirit severing, there are 3 spirit severing blades. In the ancient realm, extinguishing your soul lamp and advancing to the Tao sovereign realm is also a process of severing yourself. It is very meaningful. Thinking of this, Li Yu became very interested in entering the mountain and sea realm and entering the sealed heavens era. You can enter the sealed heavens world. Do you wish to enter? You can enter? Very good. Hearing the system's answer, Li Yu's eyes lit up. Then, enter the sealed heavens world. Chapter 1170. Immortal, immortal, immortal. As soon as he entered this world, Li Yu heard a burst of mournful and resentful roars. The entire boundless world was filled with endless resentment. That was all heaven's resentment and fear of immortals. Damn. It can't be right? All heaven fears immortals. Did I do that? Li Yu blinked and shook his head. Looking up at the sky, at the place where the giant, all heaven had once been, Li Yu sighed when he saw the miserable scene. All heaven only has 1 eye and 1 finger left? Does that mean my experiment was a success or a failure? The place where the giant all heaven had once been was also filled with vitality and a vast starry sky. However, at this moment, it was dead silent outside the boundless world. Everything had been reduced to ruins. As for all heaven, the giant, he only had 1 eye and 1 finger left. The rest of his body had completely disappeared. Cultivating my path of chaos incarnation, I transformed my body into chaos. All heaven cultivated himself into nothingness? Only 1 eye and 1 finger left? Without a doubt, the experiment this time was a failure. If he had succeeded in transforming into chaos, all heaven wouldn't even have an eye and a finger left. His entire body would have transformed into chaos. Now that only 1 eye and 1 finger remained, it could only mean that all heaven was struggling at death's door. The starry sky and the clear air has completely turned into a land of death. Luo Tian must have devoured all the life force to preserve the eye and finger. But it's still futile. Plundering all the vitality in the clear air could only delay all heaven's destruction. All heaven created 99 sons of all heaven to undergo nirvana. He wants to be reborn. In other words, all heaven made Haozi so miserable because of me? This really wasn't intentional. I still have to stay in the boundless world for a while. I can't let all heaven discover that I'm the one who made him so miserable back then. The power of formless chaos was fully unleashed, and Li Yu erased all traces of his existence. Although killing Luo Tian was just a matter of waving his hand, but that was not in line with Li Yu's plan. The reason Li Yu had come to the mountain and sea realm, to the vast expanse, was to study how to transform his body into primal chaos. Everything else was of secondary importance. Luo Tian is Haozi's food, so I don't need to pay attention to him. Looking at the vast universe outside the vast world, Li Yu saw Wang Lin, Wang Yu, Li Muwen, Red Butterfly, and the heavenly fate bead he had given Wang Yu. These guys, have they all transcended? The good fortune that I gave you back then was not in vain. Back on the immortal astral continent, Li Yu had given Wang Lin and Wang Yu the immortal ancient immortal body, and Li Muwen the heaven-sealing clan bloodline. For them to be able to transcend, It meant that they hadn't wasted the opportunity Li Yu had given them. I'm too lazy to pay attention to their matters. I still haven't settled my own matters. Li Yu shook his head and stepped forward. He silently landed in the mountain and sea realm, on planet South Heaven of the Ninth Mountain and Sea. Planet South Heaven's southern domain, country of Zhao, Yunjie County under Mount Daqing. Li Yu landed at the peak of Mount Daqing. He found a place to sit down and began to think about his next plan. The mountain and sea realm is the same world as the immortal astral continent. I don't need to make any more systems. Focusing on myself is the right thing to do. With Wang Yu's heavenly fate bead, he already had the coordinates of this world. More importantly, the immortal astral continent still had the merchant city stronghold that Li Yu had left for the ancient ancestor. The ancient ancestor took the ancient clan and the merchant city stronghold to the vast universe outside the vast expanse with the ancient ancestor? Forget it, it's the same everywhere in this universe. After withdrawing his gaze, Li Yu's mind returned to his next plan. For me, carrying out experiments in this world is only part of it. More importantly, I'm afraid I have to put it on myself. He had already comprehended the direction of transforming into primal chaos. No matter how many experiments there were, they could only be used as a reference, and even, it might not be accurate. Everyone was different. To truly transform into primal chaos, it was impossible to do so by relying on experiments alone. Therefore, it was necessary for him to personally participate. All this time, I have been controlling everything from a high and mighty position. In essence, I haven't calmed down to comprehend myself at all. This might be the key to why I haven't been able to find a breakthrough. If he didn't enter the mortal world, how could he transcend it? The paragons, on the other hand, would overlook many details. These details, these life experiences, perhaps, was the key to transforming into primal chaos? Then, this time, let I enter the world for once. Heavenly Emperor Huang had achieved the Tao and slain 9 lives. Yi Fan had also reincarnated many times. Even Meng Hao, the future demon sovereign of the mountain and sea realm, had also experienced reincarnation before comprehending the Tao of sealing the heavens. From this, it could be seen that the experience of the mortal world and the comprehension of life were also part of cultivation. Standing too high, from the very beginning, I've been standing too high. To be able to create a system, to be able to control the fate of others, to be able to change the lives of others at will, but to make me lose my own life. Thinking back to the journey he had gone through, Li Yu discovered his path of cultivation, his path of growth, had a starting point that was too high. It was so high that there was no longer any life experience or comprehension. Sealing my own power and walking the path of cultivation again in this world, the difficulties and hardships along the way, the joys and sorrows along the way, these are all very important experiences and insights. This was Li Yu's shortcoming. Since it was a shortcoming, then he had to make up for it. Of course, this is to make up for my shortcomings, not to court death. Even if I seal my power, I will definitely leave behind a life-saving method. Having already made up his mind, Li Yu already had a plan for his entry into the world, in this world. Looking up at Yunjie County, Li Yu found a family with the surname Li, and also found a suitable identity to cut in. With a sway of his body, Li Yu silently appeared in the Li family. He released his divine soul and altered the memories of everyone in the town. Then, a fresh out-of-the-oven young scholar Li Yu appeared in this world. I've added my origin to this world with the law of karma and fate. Even all heaven won't be able to find anything wrong with me, so it's a good time for me to enter the world. In a dilapidated thatched hut, the young scholar Li Yu, a member of the collateral branch of the Li family in Yunjie County's Changhe town, officially entered the world. The book in his hand, the white robe on his body, the crown on his head, the heavenly worthy seal, Emperor Yu's bell, and the profound yellow sword on his waist were all annihilated, and their magical powers were sealed, turning into ordinary objects. A vast and ethereal aura was constantly dissipating, and the power of disorder of chaos completely sealed Li Yu's cultivation, turning him into an ordinary person. The path of entering the world had officially opened. Chapter 1171. Don't listen to the sound of leaves breaking through the forest. Why not sing and walk slowly? Bamboo cane and straw shoes are lighter than a horse. Who is afraid? A coat of misty rain makes life easy. The white robe turned into a green robe, the jade crown turned into a bamboo crown, the mottled copper bell and black stone seal hung on his waist, and a long rusty sword was held in his hand. The scholar from Long River Town, Li Yu, stepped out of his house. Walking along the old town, along the small roads in the countryside, Li Yu walked in the direction of Mount Daqing. Did you see that? If you don't learn your craft seriously, you will be like Li Yu in the future. The villagers by the roadside treated Li Yu as a negative example for educating children. A scholar is useless. Like him, you won't even be able to find a wife in the future. Indeed, ups and downs are life. Hearing the villagers' mockery, Li Yu smiled and shook his head. This time, I have indeed taken the right path. If it was the previous me, how could I feel such ridicule and mockery? The high and mighty me, who has separated myself from a normal life, how could I cut off this body and turn it into chaos? Since he had never experienced a normal life, he naturally couldn't transcend life. His big sleeves fluttered in the wind. Even though his green robe was in tatters, he still had a different style. Li Yu looked at everything in front of him and felt the reality in this ordinary life. He felt that he had indeed taken the right path. How long has it been since I walked? Feeling the exhaustion and fatigue in his body that he hadn't felt in a long time, Li Yu suddenly laughed out loud. I see. If I have never felt the fatigue of my body, how could I understand my own body and turn it into chaos? He couldn't see Mount Tai for a leaf. Under the cover of his own strength, Li Yu suddenly realized that he had never really understood his own body. He had never been tired, never worked hard, and even he had never fought an intense battle. Under such circumstances, how could he turn his body into chaos? Then, let's properly experience life in this world. After walking for half a day, Li Yu finally walked from Long River Town to Mount Daqing. It was only a few dozen miles, but after walking for half a day, he still felt very tired. This was a new experience that Li Yu had not experienced for a long time. With Li Yu's realm, space was also under his control. He could completely ignore distance and instantly arrive at any place. But when they reached the destination directly, they neglected the scenery along the way. There were times when the process was more important than the result. There was someone on the mountain? Is that Meng Hao? Following the mountain path, Li Yu ascended Mount Daqing. Then, he discovered that on the peak of the mountain ahead, there was a young scholar dressed in a similar green robe. He sat on a rock with a worried expression on his face. He raised his head and looked towards the east, as if he was thinking about something. "Brother, sorry for disturbing you." The commotion caused by Li Yu's arrival interrupted the young scholar's train of thought, awakening him from his memories. "I'm Li Yu from Long River Town. Nice to meet you, brother." Li Yu cupped his fist at the young scholar and greeted him with a smile. "So it's Brother Li." The young scholar stood up with a smile and bowed to Li Yu. "I'm Meng Hao from Qingshan Town. Nice to meet you, Brother Li." "Brother Li, are you here on Mount Daqing for a walk?" Meng Hao smiled and walked over to Li Yu to greet him. The two of them were scholars of similar age. Meng Hao felt as if he had found a kindred spirit. "In March, during the county's elementary scholar examinations, I didn't make the list. I was feeling depressed, so I came to Mount Daqing for a walk." Li Yu walked over to Meng Hao's side and looked up at the horizon. When I reached the peak, I could see the majestic beauty of the mountains and rivers. The vastness of the heavens and earth made me feel better. So Brother Li is also disappointed? I won't hide it from Brother Li. I didn't make any progress in my studies, and I'm feeling lonely and depressed. When he heard that Li Yu had failed as well, Meng Hao felt as if he were all in the same boat as Li Yu. Help! Help! As the two of them were talking, they suddenly heard a cry for help from below the cliff. Someone fell off the cliff? Meng Hao's heart jumped. He quickly ran to the edge of the cliff and stuck his head out to look down. At the bottom of the cliff, there were 3 youths trapped at the bottom. One of them was Meng Hao's fellow villager, Carpenter Wang's son, Wang Yukai. Meng Hao, is it you? Meng Hao, come save me! Come save me! At the bottom of the cliff, Wang Yukai saw Meng Hao and immediately shouted for help. Wang Yukai, you? How did you fall off the cliff? Wait a moment, I'll come save you. Saying this, Meng Hao quickly turned around and looked around for vines, intending to rescue Wang Yukai and the others. Wait. At this time, Li Yu suddenly said, Did you notice? The cliff is over 20 feet high. After falling off, they didn't die? Don't you think there's a problem? Meng Hao's heart jumped. Yes. After falling off a 20-foot high cliff, they didn't die. Could it be ghosts? As a scholar who doesn't read a few stories and legends, stories of demons and ghosts, the story of a scholar encountering a fox, they've read too many of them. It's broad daylight and the world is clear. It can't be a ghost causing trouble. They might have been abducted by someone. You have to know. There are immortals in this world. Li Yu reached out and pulled out the worn-out sword at his waist. His face was full of vigilance as he looked around. Brother Meng, you go and rescue them. I'll be on guard. If they were really kidnapped, then the immortal who kidnapped them is probably a heretical demon. Bastard! You're the demon! At this time, a gust of wind whistled by. The sky was filled with green light. A beautiful young girl wearing a silver dress appeared. Her eyebrows were raised as she stared coldly at Li Yu. This young girl who suddenly appeared and flew in the air shocked Meng Hao. It's really a demon immortal. Demon your head, roared the young girl in the silver dress. Since you two delivered yourselves to my doorstep, then I'll take both of you. She waved her hand, and a green light rose up, enveloping Meng Hao and Li Yu. The young girl in the silver dress flew down the cliff. As Wang Yukai and the others cried out in alarm, she waved her sleeve again, sweeping them up. 5 youngsters. Not bad, I can finally report back, muttered the young girl in the silver dress. She flew up into the air, passing Mount Daqing. At the end of a river, she entered an enormous limestone cave. After a moment of dizziness, Meng Hao and the others came to their senses. They found themselves in the middle of an enormous mountain surrounded by clouds and mist. Elder Sister Su is really brilliant. You brought back 5 youngsters this time? That's great. I don't even have enough odd-job workers. The young girl in the silver dress landed halfway up the mountain. A horse-faced young man in a green robe approached with a smile. He bowed to the young girl in the silver dress. I'll leave them to you, replied the young girl in the silver dress coolly. She waved her hand and released the green light. Li Yu, Meng Hao, Wang Yukai and the others were tossed out. Then, she turned and rode the green light into the sky. We're in the land of immortal cultivation? Asked Meng Hao, his eyes wide and his jaw hanging open. Maybe. Who knows? Li Yu shrugged with an indifferent expression on his face. This place was the Reliance sect, the Demon Sealing sect. Chapter 1172. You and you, come with me. Before Meng Hao and the others could figure out what was going on, the horse-faced man in the green robe pointed at Li Yu, Meng Hao, and a little fatty. The other 2, come with me. The other man in the green robe led Wang Yukai and a strong-looking youth away. Immortal, may I know why you've summoned us here? The horse-faced man led Li Yu, Meng Hao, and the little fatty along the mountain path. After walking for a while, Meng Hao asked the horse-faced man, "Of course it's a good thing. This is a great fortune for all of you." The horse-faced man lifted his head proudly. "This is the Reliance sect, a place of immortal cultivation, an immortal sect. Do you understand? Although you'll be servants in the sect, even if you can't cultivate after 30 years, you'll still be able to enjoy a lifetime of glory, splendor, wealth, and rank." "Servants? You mean to work for an immortal?" Meng Hao nodded, his eyes shining with a golden light. "Working for an immortal, the wages will definitely be higher than in the mortal world. It's not bad." Yes, the future demon sovereign Meng Hao was so greedy, he was so business-minded. "I don't want to work for you. My family is rich. I Li Fugue have plenty of money. I don't want to work for you, I want to go home." Tears streamed down the little fatty's face as he howled. "Shut up. If you howl again, I'll cut your tongue out," the horse-faced man roared fiercely, scaring the little fatty so much that he trembled and didn't dare to make another sound. As for Li Yu, he thought back to the days when he was a servant in Kangwu Mountain. "Even if I seal my cultivation, my innate sage body and Tao embryo are much stronger than ordinary people. I don't have to worry about being as weak as I was back then." Li Yu's original intention was to enter the secular world to cultivate and comprehend life, so he didn't have much dislike for being a servant. After all, this was also a life experience. A moment later, the horse-faced man led the three of them to a bungalow halfway up the mountain. "This is the Northern District Servants' Quarters. From now on, you'll live here. I will arrange for you to serve in the army every day." The horse-faced young man brought the three of them into a loft. He took out a servant uniform, an identity token, and a scroll and handed them to Li Yu and the others. "Here are your clothes and tokens. Don't look down on this set of clothes. In the mortal world, this set of clothes is a peerless treasure that is impervious to fire and water. It's worth thousands of gold." The horse-faced man pointed at the book. "This is the entry-level cultivation method, the Qi condensation manual. If you have the ability to master the first level, you can become a disciple of the sect and no longer be a servant. Worth thousands of gold." Meng Hao's gaze landed on the expensive clothes. Handyman, regular worker, little fatty Li Fugue was absent-minded and didn't listen to what the horse-faced young man said. Li Yu picked up the Qi condensation manual and glanced at it before throwing it away. "The 7th room on the west side will be your living quarters. From tomorrow onwards, your job will be to chop firewood. Each of you will chop down 10 trees a day. If you can't do it, you won't get to eat." Seeing their behavior, the horse-faced young man shook his head and waved his hand, sending them out. "We entered the immortal sect just like that? Life is unpredictable." Walking out of the building, Meng Hao turned his head to look at Li Yu, his face full of emotion. "It doesn't matter if you're flushed with success or if life is unpredictable. It's all just an experience, a life." Li Yu smiled calmly. "Let's go. Let's see what kind of scenery this handyman's journey has to offer." Brother Li is calm in the face of change. "I admire you." Meng Hao nodded and smiled. "It really is a stop on the journey of life. Well, let's properly experience this experience." They walked to the 7th room on the west side. Looking at the simple bed, little fatty Li Fugue howled again. "There's no soft bed made of silk. This bed is so hard. How am I supposed to sleep?" "Sleep? You still want to sleep? Get over here." Li Yu and the other two had just entered the room when a burly man walked in. He pointed at them and shouted, "Come out! Go chop firewood for me. Chop down 20 trees each." "Aren't there only 10? Meng Hao was stunned. "Didn't the horse-faced man say 10 trees? The extra ones are for me, of course. What, do you have a problem with that?" The burly man stared fiercely at Li Yu and the other two. He clenched his fists until they made cracking sounds. Little fatty Li Fugue shrunk his neck in fear. Meng Hao frowned, his heart full of resentment. That's not right. Li Yu looked at the burly man with a face full of smiles. Confucius said, my ass. The burly man roared and swung his fist over. Whoosh! A cold light flashed and the cold blade was pressed against the burly man's throat. You! The burly man was so shocked that his whole body trembled. The cold blade pressed against his throat made his hair stand on end and his face pale. Brother Li, you actually have such swordsmanship? Meng Hao looked at Li Yu with a face full of shock. This brother Li didn't seem to be simple. A gentleman wears a sword to show his virtue. Although I'm a scholar, I've also practiced a few swordsmanship. Li Yu looked at the burly man with a face full of smiles. We're new here and aren't familiar with the business of chopping firewood. How about, brother, please do it for me? You, the burly man was shocked and angry. Wasn't it me who bullied them? How did it turn into them bullying me? If brother isn't willing, I naturally won't force you. The smile on Li Yu's face didn't diminish. It's just that. I like swordsmanship. Who knows, I might find brother to spar with. Haha. How could I not be willing? I'm willing. We're all from the same sect. You guys just arrived. As your senior brother, of course I have to take care of you. The burly man patted his chest with a face full of smiles. Don't worry, leave it to me. From now on, I'll take care of all your work. Take care of all of it? That's not good, right? Won't senior brother be too hard on you? Li Yu's face was full of embarrassment. His expression seemed to have a bit of shyness. It's not hard. It's not hard at all. Your senior brother is strong. I don't care about anything else, I just have a bit of strength. Don't worry, leave it all to me. The burly man's heroic spirit reached the clouds. It was as if he was a righteous man, willing to sacrifice himself for his brother. Then I'll have to trouble you, senior brother. No trouble. No trouble at all. The burly man walked away with his head held high, chest puffed out. He seemed to be taking pleasure in helping others, but in reality, his heart was bleeding. That's possible? Meng Hao blinked, feeling as if a hole had opened up in his head. Meng Hao also enjoyed conning people. At this moment, Meng Hao suddenly felt that Li Yu was a kindred spirit. If these two conners were put together, it would be impossible to imagine what kind of conning the world would become in the future. If he can make us work for him, then we can make him work for us. Of course it's possible. Li Yu took out the Qi condensation manual and waved it at Meng Hao. This is what we should do. Once we reach the first level of Qi condensation, we're official disciples. Exactly. Meng Hao nodded his head and picked up the manual. Studying is our old profession. I wonder what's so different about this immortal's book? Thus, Meng Hao's path of cultivation had officially begun. Recommended. Car Black Technology. Chapter 1173. The Qi Condensation Manual is a basic Qi training technique. Although Li Yu had sealed his own cultivation base, his knowledge and experience were not affected. With a single glance, he could see through the essence of the Reliance sect's Qi Condensation Manual. Even the odd-job workers had a cultivation technique manual, so how profound could it be? I'll practice it for now. Once I'm promoted to the inner sect, I can go to Old Turtle Reliance's arcane cave to study the Sublime Spirit Scripture. When the time comes, I'll switch to the Sublime Spirit Scripture. Sitting cross-legged on his bed, Li Yu began to circulate the Qi Condensation Manual. The surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth surged toward him. In a moment, he had reached the first level of Qi condensation. Even if he sealed his cultivation base and became an ordinary person, he would still be able to cultivate. But Li Yu had acquired the innate sage body Tao embryo, and his own cultivation base had reached the peak. His potential for cultivation was limitless. First level of qi condensation. You can become an official disciple. Liu smiled as he finished his cultivation. He looked at Meng Hao, who was still studying the qi condensation manual. Fatty was already snoring. Brother Meng, are you still studying the qi condensation manual? Liu asked with a smile when he saw that Meng Hao was frowning in thought. Yeah. This Immortal's book, it's not easy to understand. Meng Hao raised his head and smiled at Liu. His face was filled with helplessness. As a scholar, Meng Hao had assumed that no matter how difficult an Immortal's book was, he would still be able to understand it. But when he opened the qi condensation manual, he could read every word. However, he didn't understand anything about Dantian Qi Si or Sea of Knowledge and Soul. So that's how it is. Liu smiled and nodded. Now that's normal, he thought to himself. In many worlds, the main character, a mortal who had never experienced cultivation, could obtain a book and immediately begin cultivation. They would immediately soar to the heavens. That was not a fantasy. If you didn't understand cultivation terms, then there was no way to cultivation. Back when I was learning swordsmanship, I had also consulted others about some cultivation method. How about we discuss it? Liu looked up at Meng Hao and smiled. That's my wish. Meng Hao nodded happily. Taking the book, he walked over to Liu and pulled out a stool to sit in front of him. The Dantian Sea of Qi is where the primordial Qi is stored. It's located below the navel. In the Sea of Consciousness, the place where the mind resides is the primal aperture between the eyebrows. Liu picked up the book and began to explain the qi condensation manual to Meng Hao, one by one. The human body is the inner world, and the world is the outer world. Drawing qi into the body, the internal and external converging, thus condensing true yuan and spiritual energy. This is the foundation of transcendence. Thank you for your guidance, Brother Li. Hearing Liu's explanation, Meng Hao was intelligent, and his perception was extraordinary. Everything suddenly became clear to him, and he completely understood how to practice the qi condensation manual. It's not like we're giving pointers. We're just discussing it. Liu shook his head with a smile. Try this method first. You're too modest, Brother Li. Knowing that Liu was being modest, Meng Hao smiled and clasped his hands in salute. He thought to himself, this Brother Li is definitely not simple. The down-and-out scholar from Long River Town? What kind of scholar would know so much about immortal cultivation? Of course, Liu had never revealed his true identity, so Meng Hao didn't point it out. Don't ask about a hero's origin. Perhaps Brother Li has some hidden secret. With Liu's guidance, Meng Hao's understanding of the qi condensation manual could be considered official. In his previous life, Meng Hao had spent half a year slowly figuring out how to practice the qi condensation manual. Now, he had won at the starting line. The morning of the first day. Brother Li, immortal cultivation really is mysterious. Meng Hao had practiced cultivation all night, and his face was filled with joy as he stretched his arms and legs. Brother Li, I can feel a warm current flowing through my dantian. It makes me feel 100 times more energetic and refreshed. I have the same feeling. It seems we didn't pass the imperial examinations, but immortal cultivation is pretty good. Liu laughed and joked. Ha 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 ha. Exactly. Thinking about the imperial examinations, Meng Hao laughed heartily. Days passed. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. One day, Meng Hao was sitting cross-legged in his room practicing qi when he suddenly felt a roaring sound in his head. A warm current of qi flowed out from his dantian and into his entire body. Qi flowed through his body, and Meng Hao officially entered the first level of qi condensation. The surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth emitted ripples that slowly spread out. This is the first level of qi condensation? It's only been half a month, and someone has already reached the first level of qi condensation? The horse-faced young man in the green robe felt the ripples of spiritual energy, and was shocked. He leapt into the air and landed in front of Meng Hao's room. You reached the first level of qi condensation? Half a month to reach the first level of qi condensation? Your natural talent is extraordinary. The horse-faced young man pushed open the door and entered. He saw Meng Hao, who had just finished his cultivation, and his eyes flashed with a strange light. Elder brother, you flatter me. Meng Hao smiled shyly and clasped his hands in salute. I was lucky to break through. I don't deserve your praise. The horse-faced young man laughed dryly. He waved his hand and threw out a jade slip. Since you've broken through, you can now become an outer sect disciple. Use your spiritual energy to activate the jade slip and report to the outer sect. Brotherly, Meng Hao caught the jade slip and looked at Li Yu with some embarrassment. It was only because of Li Yu's guidance that he was able to enter the inner sect so quickly. Now, he had shed his servant status and become an outer sect disciple before Brotherly. This made Meng Hao feel a bit embarrassed. Don't worry, Brother Meng. I was lucky enough to break through as well. Li Yu laughed and released the ripples of spiritual energy from his body. His spirit energy vibrated and ripples appeared in the surrounding heaven and earth spirit energy. The horse-faced young man had just turned to leave when he suddenly felt the ripples of spiritual energy behind him. His heart trembled and he quickly turned around. You broke through as well? The horse-faced young man's jaw dropped. He muttered to himself, what the hell? Among the few odd job workers that senior martial sister Sue brought back, there were actually 2 guys with outstanding talent? This is a jade slip, take it. Throwing another jade slip, the horse-faced young man flicked his sleeve and turned to leave. Brotherly really is brilliant. In this half a month, Meng Hao had never sensed any spiritual energy from Li Yu's body. Now he had broken through just like that? To Brotherly, breaking through realms was as simple as eating and drinking? Meng Hao looked deeply at Li Yu. He felt that this Brotherly was even more enigmatic than before. You guys are all outer sect disciples? Leaving me all alone, what am I going to do? Little fatty Li Fugui's face was sullen, his face full of reluctance. Don't sleep so much, meditate and train your qi. You'll become an outer sect disciple soon. Meng Hao looked at Li Fugui and shook his head speechlessly. This little fatty was also a weirdo. Whenever he meditated, he would doze off. Furthermore, he could cultivate while dozing off. What was even weirder was that all of the spiritual energy that little fatty cultivated was actually focused on his teeth. His mouth was filled with terrifying spirit teeth that could even crush iron. Even more terrifying was that little fatty was actually sleepwalking. Furthermore, he was sleepwalking and eating. The table in the room was full of holes from the little fatty's gnawing. Don't worry. Even if you doze off, you'll become an outer sect disciple in a month or 2. This little fatty could be considered to have extraordinary natural talent. Li Yu couldn't help but observe him a few times. He felt that this guy was simply a natural Taotai. He planned to find an opportunity in the future to give him a secret Taotai technique and let him eat all over the world. Recommended Zhou's new book, Spare My King. It was a very interesting book. Chapter 1174. He used his spiritual power to activate the jade slip and use it to guide the way. Li Yu and Meng Hao followed the floating jade slip as they followed the mountain path. After passing through the cliff that was shrouded in clouds and mist, the 2 of them arrived at the front of a majestic and ancient hall after more than 2 hours of traveling. 2 junior brothers were promoted to outer sect disciple today? It's worthy of celebration. Li Yu and Meng Hao had just arrived at the entrance of the hall when a chubby young cultivator came out. His face was full of smiles, and he looked very sincere and kind. Junior brothers, come, this way please. They followed the chubby cultivator into a room in the middle of the hall. The chubby cultivator took out several items and handed them to Li Yu and Meng Hao. Junior brothers, this is the uniform of an outer sect disciple. This is your identity medallion, and this is your bag of holding. A dark green robe, a jade medallion, and a small bag the size of a palm. These are the benefits of being an outer sect disciple. There's even a bag of holding? Compared to servants, official disciples really do get a lot better treatment. Meng Hao looked at the 3 items, and his eyes flashed with a golden light. After the 2 of them put the items away, the chubby cultivator smiled warmly. Junior brothers, this main hall is the sect's treasure pavilion. Every outer sect disciple has the right to choose a magical item from the treasure pavilion. There are even magical items? That's great. The golden light in Meng Hao's eyes shone even brighter. During this period of time, Meng Hao had learned a lot about the cultivation world, and was no longer a layman. How could Meng Hao not know about magical items? Of course, in Meng Hao's eyes, the greatest value of magical items was money. Come. The extremely good-natured chubby cultivator stood up and led the 2 of them to the main hall. Using his identity medallion, they passed through the restrictive spell formation and entered the main hall. Meng Hao was blinded by the countless magical items placed in the treasure pavilion. Wow, so many treasures! Inside the enormous main hall were rows upon rows of wooden shelves. On these wooden shelves were neatly arranged flying swords, golden bells, treasure bottles, jade pendants, pearls. Each and every one of the treasures sparkled and shone brilliantly. As far as the eye could see, it was a dazzling multicolored light. When had Meng Hao ever seen so many treasures? When had he ever seen such an enormous amount of wealth? Meng Hao's blood boiled, and he wished he could pack it all up. Junior brothers, have you been dazzled by these magical items? Do you not know which one to choose? Fatty walked over with a smile. Both of you are dragons among men. Seeing you today, I feel very close to you. As a deacon disciple of the Treasure Pavilion, I have done some research on these magic tools. Let me introduce them to you. His eyes were dazzled by the artifacts, so when he heard that Fatty was willing to introduce the artifacts, it was naturally to his liking. Li Yu didn't care about these dregs at all. He was only interested in the chubby cultivator's actions. Junior brothers, when it comes to the power of magical items, of all the magical items in the treasure pavilion, the 100 poison soul-devouring banner and the Netherworld 7 slaughter sword are the most powerful. The chubby cultivator led Li Yu and Meng Hao to a row of wooden shelves on the east side. He pointed to a black banner and a black sword at the very top and introduced them to the 2. Meng Hao looked at the banner and sword at the very top of the wooden shelves and blinked. Since they are the most powerful, and yet no one uses them, I presume these 2 treasures have some flaws? Junior brother is really smart. The chubby cultivator nodded approvingly. Indeed, although the banner and the sword are the most powerful, refining them is very troublesome. Most people can't use them. This is the reason why pearls are covered in dust. Junior brothers, if you want to choose these 2 magical items, you must be careful. So that's how it is. Meng Hao nodded and clasped his hands to the chubby cultivator. Many thanks for your guidance, senior brother. Next, the chubby cultivator led the 2 of them around the treasure pavilion. He introduced them to the various magical items, clearly explaining their strengths and weaknesses. After the introduction, Meng Hao realized that none of the magical items were satisfactory. Junior brothers, there is one more precious treasure in the treasure pavilion. This precious treasure has an extraordinary origin. It was formed from a strand of divine light from beyond the heavens, and was collected by our sect's patriarch Reliance. The patriarch once said that if this mirror meets its destined owner, it will be able to gallop across the world. With a mysterious expression, The chubby cultivator led the two of them to a row of wooden shelves in the deepest part of the treasure pavilion. In the first row of wooden shelves was a lone, mottled copper mirror. Not only did it not have the slightest bit of magical light, it was also mottled with copper rust, as if it were an ordinary copper mirror from the mortal world. Divine objects conceal themselves. Don't be fooled by this copper mirror. I can slap my chest and swear to the heavens that this copper mirror is the most mysterious precious treasure in the entire treasure pavilion. The chubby cultivator smiled at Li Yu and Meng Hao. Junior brothers, don't you want to give it a try? If you are destined, this precious treasure can help you gallop across the world. Such a mysterious precious treasure. Meng Hao reached out and picked up the copper mirror. After examining it for a while, he couldn't find any clues. What's this thing? At this moment, Li Yu reached into the corner of the shelf and picked up a dusty lump of stone. It looked like a pebble that someone had casually tossed in. Elder brother, I can't believe someone would throw a stone in the treasure pavilion. That's outrageous. Li Yu picked up the fist-sized pebble, his face filled with righteous indignation as he spoke to the chubby cultivator. Of course it's not a stone. It's a precious treasure. It's another mysterious precious treasure in the treasure pavilion. When the chubby cultivator saw Li Yu pick up the pebble, he gaped for a moment, then smiled mysteriously. Junior brother, you were able to discover a hidden precious treasure. It seems you are destined for it. You too are destined for it. I don't want this copper mirror. He looked at the copper mirror in his hand and shook his head. He didn't believe a single word the chubby cultivator had said about being formed from divine light from beyond the heavens or being destined for it. I also feel that I am not destined for this stone, this precious treasure. Li Yu seemed to be about to toss the pebble away. Junior brothers, I'm afraid you two don't know the rules of the treasure pavilion. Now that you have a magical item in your hand, that means you have made your choice. By this time, the chubby cultivator's face, which had always been kind, had changed. His expression became cold and sinister. Junior brothers, you have just become official disciples. It's not your fault that you are not familiar with the rules. However, the consequences of breaking the rules are something you should consider carefully. At this point, a smile appeared on the fatty's face. However, rules are rules. I'm not an unreasonable person. If you two junior brothers want to change magical items, then you will have to pay a spirit stone. After all, I am taking a risk here, am I right? This is being scammed. Meng Hao blinked and looked at Li Yu with a strange expression. We are being scammed? Senior brother is right. Li Yu picked up the pebble in his hand and smiled. Then we will take our leave. When we have earned enough spirit stones, we will come back to visit senior brother. After saying this, Li Yu pulled Meng Hao out of the treasure pavilion. Brotherly, why, after they left, Meng Hao looked at Li Yu with a puzzled expression. He had obviously been scammed, and he was leaving just like that? If he didn't scam him back, how could he be satisfied? Don't worry, I will dig a big hole for him. Li Yu smiled and nodded. He scammed us. He is really courageous. Recommended Li Luo's Glory MCMAU. Excellent old author. It is worth a read. You might not believe it, but this is not the legend of the Chosen One. It is an inspirational story of a hot-blooded youth who ran forward in the face of ridicule and ridicule, chasing his dream, never giving up, and finally bringing glory to MCMAU. The MCMAU here was different from the MCMAU that everyone thought of. It was not a traditional fantasy. It was said to be a combination of fantasy plus city plus competition plus wuxia plus romance. Chapter 1175. This stone is really interesting. After leaving the treasure pavilion, Li Yu and Meng Hao followed the instructions on the jade slip toward the outer sect disciples' residences. As they walked along, Li Yu tossed the stone up and down, a smile on his face. "Brotherly," he said, "is there anything special about this stone?" Meng Hao asked suspiciously. "Actually, it really is a precious treasure." Liu looked at the stone in his hand and suddenly understood. Meng Hao's copper mirror wasn't related to the Parrot Fifth, but to Patriarch Vast Expanse, the first transcendent in the world of all heaven, ghost. He had created the transcendent battle armor. The transcendent battle armor also had two accessories, which were two pearls. One of them was in Dong Hu's hands, and had the power to increase a person's cultivation base by 1 level. The other had never been found. In the future, even after Meng Hao had transcended the world of all heaven, and even killed all heaven, he hadn't been able to find the other pearl. In other words, by that time, Meng Hao didn't care about the pearl at all. So, the other pearl has been collecting dust in the Reliance Sect's treasure pavilion all this time. Liu glanced over the pearl. Although his cultivation base was sealed, his eyesight wasn't bad. He immediately saw through the functions of the pearl. Of the two pearls, the white one increased the cultivation base of the wearer of the transcendent battle armor by 1 level. The black pearl in Liu's hand suppressed the enemy's cultivation base by 1 level. 9 broken mirror shards plus the copper mirror and the 2 pearls. That's the complete form of the transcendent battle armor. Now that he understood the ins and outs of the matter, Liu turned to Meng Hao and handed him the stone pearl. "This pearl should be part of your copper mirror. You can use it." "Pearl? Copper mirror? Don't tell me, this thing really is a precious treasure?" Meng Hao pulled out the rusty copper mirror from his bag of holding. His jaw dropped, and he stared in shock. "That fatty wasn't lying," Meng Hao said. "This thing really is formed from divine light from beyond the heavens. You really are a fated person." Liu smiled and nodded at Meng Hao. "I've heard of this item before, but I didn't think it would actually be here. Since you've encountered it, it can be considered an opportunity." "Brotherly. Thank you." Meng Hao took the stone pearl and the copper mirror, then put them into his bag of holding. In his heart, he was now certain that Liu had an extraordinary background. Not only did he know the treasures like the back of his hand, he didn't care about them at all. Other than having an extraordinary background and having seen many treasures, there was no other possibility. "Why are you being so polite?" Liu shook his head and pointed to the front. "Let's go, we're almost there. Let's settle down first." Following the direction indicated by the jade slip, the two of them moved forward. Suddenly, a scream came from the front. Coming out from behind the cliff, Zhang Xian looked up and saw an outer disciple lying on the ground in a bloody mess. Someone had stepped on his chest and snatched the storage pouch from his waist. After the robber left, the badly mangled outer sect disciple scrambled to his feet. His face was filled with hatred as he stared in the direction the robber had left. "You dare to sneak attack me? Just you wait." With that, the robber turned and left. What's going on? How can people from the same sect rob each other? Seeing this, Meng Hao was dumbstruck. Any sect wouldn't be so lawless, right? Even if people from the same sect didn't treat each other like family, they couldn't treat each other like enemies, right? If things went on like this, who in the sect would feel a sense of belonging to the sect? TSK. I hate robbers like this the most. There's no skill involved at all. Liu curled his lip disdainfully. We're all scholars. In the future, we can't act so crudely. Otherwise, it'd be too embarrassing. Brother Li, you're absolutely right. Meng Hao nodded, thinking that Liu's words had hit the nail on the head. However, Brother Li, don't you think it's strange? How can the Reliance sect be so lawless? Don't they have any rules? If people from the same sect kill each other, what future does the sect have? 2 days ago, I asked someone about this. Not only can Reliance sect disciples rob each other, but there's also a place where they kill each other. There's no such thing as fighting to the death. Liu shrugged his shoulders. I heard that Patriarch Reliance left behind this rule. Who knows what's going on? Maybe Patriarch Reliance's brain went haywire. All right. Meng Hao also felt that the possibility of Patriarch Reliance's brain going haywire wasn't small. As they walked toward the outer sect disciples' residences, they saw many robberies and fights. Whether it was the robber, the victim, or the bystanders, they all took it for granted. Other than the fact that no one was killed, it was common to see broken arms and legs. It seemed that the rules of the Reliance sect were just like this. As Li Yu and Meng Hao walked along, quite a few people paid attention to them. But when they saw the jade slips floating in front of them, they knew that they were newly promoted outer sect disciples. They didn't have anything to gain, so no one took them as target. This caused Meng Hao, who had been nervous the entire time, to let out a sigh of relief. Following the jade slips, the two of them found a remote bungalow on the edge of a cliff. There were 2 old stone huts. Li Yu and Meng Hao settled down. Brotherly, you said that this copper mirror and stone pearl are treasures. What is so special about them? After settling down, Meng Hao picked up the copper mirror and stone pearl and asked Li Yu. Any magical item or magical item requires spiritual energy to operate. The only reason I haven't found anything special about it is because I don't have enough spiritual energy. Li Yu laughed. Whether it's cultivation or activating magical items, you need enough spirit stones. Therefore, we need to make some preparations. If we don't rob them, then we'll lose face as scholars. Strategizing is what suits our identities. That makes sense. That makes sense. Meng Hao agreed. But we're new here, so we need to familiarize ourselves with the situation before we can strategize. What do you think, Brotherly? Know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll never be defeated. Brother Meng, you really do understand the art of war. You flatter me. Brotherly is the one who's wise and insightful. Okay, these 2 swindlers with bellies full of evil tricks were flattering each other. Time slowly passed as the 2 of them stepped in, familiarized themselves with the situation. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. Dong, a loud and clear bell rang out, startling the entire outer sect of the Reliance sect. It's time to distribute the medicinal pills. Ha 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 ha. It's pill distribution day again. Today, I'm going to slaughter everyone. The medicinal pills are mine. If anyone dares to fight with me, I'll chop them up. Instantly, the entire outer sect encampment seemed to have heard the bugle call to charge and break through enemy lines. One by one, the outer sect disciples rubbed their fists, their faces ferocious. Pill distribution day? Li Yu and Meng Hao stopped the bell and walked out of the hut. The morning glow is like blood. Today, rivers of blood will flow. During this period of stepping in, the 2 of them knew that pill distribution day was the day of a bloody battle. To be bestowed with medicinal pills by the sect elders was not an opportunity, but rather a death sentence. Today, when I was uploading the chapter, I saw some readers saying, "The author has written too much." First, I'd like to thank the readers for their interest in this book, and then I'll explain. Li Yu sealed his cultivation base, not because he wanted to start over from scratch, but because he wanted to gain enlightenment about life and understand himself. The author would not allow Li Yu to reach the pinnacle of his cultivation and write a few million words. It would only be a short journey. Let me give you a bit of a spoiler. Li Yu didn't even need to reach the Daosor stage in this world. All he needed to do was reach spirit severing, and understand himself with the 3rd blade of spirit severing. That was enough. Every time the main character made a breakthrough in his cultivation base, the author had a detailed plan. Every breakthrough was written in a reasonable and well-grounded manner. Even the outline of the ending had been written. Every step was appropriate, and there was no way it would be a failure. Don't worry, everyone. Chapter 1176. The bell tolled. Li Yu and Meng Hao left the courtyard and followed the crowd to the central square of the outer sect. Moments later, they arrived at the central square of the outer sect. It was an enormous square. Around the square, towering stone pillars with dragon carvings were erected. Each of the stone pillars emitted a dazzling light. At the very front of the square was a platform about 10 meters wide. Atop the platform, rosy clouds curled around it. Immortal mist filled the air, and a few ethereal figures could be seen. The Reliance sect only has so few official disciples? When Li Yu and Meng Hao arrived at the square, they saw the 100 outer sect disciples gathered around. They frowned. It seems that the Reliance sect has declined. Meng Hao turned to look at Li Yu and sighed. Dong, at this moment, another bell tolled from the platform. As the bell tolled, all of the outer sect disciples in the square held their breaths and waited. Obviously, the time for the pill release ceremony had arrived. The rosy clouds covering the platform slowly dissipated, revealing the figure within. An old man in a long golden robe stood in the center of the platform. His eyes were like lightning, and his expression was dignified without anger. Beside the golden-robed elder stood a man and a woman. The man was handsome and had an aura of righteousness. As for the woman, she was the one who had captured Li Yu, Meng Hao, and the others from Mount Daqing. Is Master Uncle Shangguan here to release the pill release ceremony? Chun Fan and Su Qing from the inner sect are both here. The outer sect disciples who knew the inside story were shocked by the pill release ceremony. There were only 2 inner sect disciples in the entire Reliance sect. One was Chun Fan and the other was Su Qing. Now, they were both here for the pill release ceremony? What was going on? Today, I will be presiding over the pill release ceremony. The golden-robed old man, Shangguan Xiu, swept his gaze over the crowd. His majestic aura surged out like a raging tide, causing the outer sect disciples to tremble and lower their heads. However, the pressure of a mere qi condensation cultivator was nothing to Li Yu, and he didn't care at all. Even Meng Hao was completely calm, and didn't reveal any signs of panic or fear. Shangguan Xiu noticed Li Yu and Meng Hao, who were like cranes in a flock of chickens. His eyes flashed with a strange light. Inner sect disciples Chun Fan and Su Qing also glanced at Li Yu and Su Qing with surprise in their eyes. This time, everyone will receive 1 spirit concentration pill and 1 spirit stone. Shangguan Xiu waved his hand, and more than 100 medicinal pills and spirit stones fell into the hands of the disciples. They were just right, without the slightest difference. Does the pill have a seal? Meng Hao looked at the medicinal pill in his hand, which was enveloped by a layer of fluorescent light. He couldn't open it, so he couldn't consume it. It's just a spiritual power seal. It'll be undone in an hour. But it looks like it's to prevent the medicinal strength from leaking out. But this is the root of all the fighting and killing. Li Yu sighed and shook his head. The pills didn't have this spiritual power seal, so they could be consumed immediately after being given out. With this spiritual energy seal in place, if he couldn't open the seal within an hour and swallow the pill, then he would be able to snatch it. Brotherly, I'm afraid that the medicinal pills and spirit stones in our hands will also be snatched away. If that's the case, Meng Hao looked at Li Yu, his eyes flashing. Li Yu smiled and nodded his head. The 2 scammers had reached an agreement and were ready to scam others. Today's pill distribution was supposed to be over, but, at this time, Shangguan Xiu suddenly spoke up from the high platform, and then took out 2 glittering medicinal pills from his bag of holding. These are dry spirit pills. Holding up the 2 pills, Shangguan Xiu's eyes shone with a hint of ridicule. They're actually dry spirit pills. At this moment the entire square was filled with heat. The crowd of outer sect disciples began to breathe rapidly. Dry spirit pills are high-level pills. Even inner sect disciples rarely see them, let alone outer sect disciples. I wonder who Elder Shangguan will give these pills to? No matter who it is, they're dead meat. An elder bestowing pills is not an opportunity, it's a path to death. No matter who gets these high-level pills, everyone will fight over them. Even if you throw them away, who will you give them to? Those who get the pills won't be grateful, and those who don't will hate you. Either way, you're dead meat. I'm very pleased to see that there are new talents in the sect. Shangguanxiu's gaze swept over the square, and then it rested on Li Yu and Meng Hao. A slight smile appeared on his face, as if he really appreciated these two talents. These 2 dry spirit pills are for you. With a wave of his hand, the 2 dry spirit pills landed in the hands of Li Yu and Meng Hao. Holy crap! Looking at the dry spirit pills in his hand, Meng Hao's heart thumped. At this moment, he clearly felt as if he had become the focus of everyone's attention. The greedy and vicious gazes seemed to want to burn him to ashes. It's nothing, although it exceeded our expectations, but isn't it just a bit too much? Li Yu patted Meng Hao's shoulder. We are scholars. Our hearts are filled with the dangers of mountains and rivers, and our hearts are filled with shrewdness. Everything is under our control. I understand. Meng Hao took a deep breath, his eyes shining. Even if the affairs of the world are like a game of chess, we can still calmly arrange the pieces. Then, let's play a good show. Kid, throw the pills to me in a moment. If you don't give them to me, then next year today will be the anniversary of your death. At this time, several voices rang out, their cold voices filled with ruthlessness. Of course, Li Yu and Meng Hao didn't pay attention to these threats. The immortal cloud on the high platform rose up. Elder Shangguan and the 2 inner sect disciples were already preparing to leave. Reporting to Elder, we have something to say. At this time, Li Yu and Meng Hao spoke at the same time, bowing towards the high platform. What do you have to say? Shangguanxiu, Chen Fan and Su Qing, who were just about to leave, looked at Li Yu and Meng Hao with astonishment. The two's actions were very unexpected. Reporting to Elder, Li Yu reached out and held up the dry spirit pill, his face full of smiles. We are indebted to Elder's kindness for bestowing the dry spirit pill. The 2 of us are ashamed, we do not dare to accept. We are indebted to the sect for nurturing us. How can we monopolize such a precious treasure? After thinking about it, we came up with a solution. The 2 of us are willing to take out 2 dry spirit pills, 2 qi condensation pills and 2 spirit stones as prizes. Taking advantage of the presence of Elder and the 2 inner sect brothers and sisters, we will hold an outer sect grand competition here. In this way, not only will it motivate the sect disciples to cultivate, but it will also serve the sect. We ask for Elder's approval. After saying this, Li Yu and Meng Hao bowed together. Outer sect grand competition? You want to use your pills and spirit stones as prizes? This is a little interesting. Shangguanxiu looked at the 2 of them with interest and slowly nodded his head. Then, I approve. Thus, what was supposed to be a free-for-all competition actually turned into an outer sect grand competition. Li Yu and Meng Hao, these 2 scammers, laughed strangely in their hearts. What competition? Isn't it a good time to cheat people? Chapter 1177. Disciple has a rule. Meng Hao took a step forward and bowed toward the platform. Your disciple feels that the rewards we've offered are not enough. How about all the participating elder brothers take out their medicinal pills and spirit stones for a gambling match? The winner will receive the medicinal pills and spirit stones of the loser. The competition will be divided into preliminaries, and finals. The winners of the preliminaries will participate in the preliminaries, and the winners of the preliminaries will participate in the finals. Fellow disciples, 2 dry spirit pills, as well as countless medicinal pills and spirit stones, await you. As soon as Meng Hao said this, the eyes of everyone in the square began to shine. The winner would receive the spirit stones and medicinal pills of others, and it wouldn't be a free-for-all. It was both safe and rewarding. It was too convenient, too appropriate. Approved. Elder Shangguan enjoyed the pleasure of manipulating the fates of others. He was very interested in Meng Hao's new idea, and immediately agreed. Come, come, come. Fellow disciples, the competition is like this. Li Yu and Meng Hao went from being new disciples to being the organizers of the Outer Sect Grand Competition. The competition areas were divided according to cultivation base. The organizers began to duel. This is the competition area for disciples of the third level of Qi condensation and below. This is the competition area for disciples of the fourth and fifth level of Qi condensation. They divided the area and drew lots to determine the order of the competition. Then, the two swindlers became the referees. One duel after another proceeded in an orderly fashion. Soon, the first round of preliminaries was over. Half of the 100 Outer Sect disciples were eliminated. Half returned from a rewarding journey, the other half were covered in cuts and bruises, and their hands were empty. The second round of preliminaries begins. Another fierce battle. Another half of the people were covered in cuts and bruises, and their hands were empty. The 20 or so winners were also heavily injured. However, the victors were very excited. They had never earned so many medicinal pills and spirit stones in one go. Compared to the usual free-for-all, this competition was both safer and more rewarding. Li Yu and Meng Hao weren't bad at all. Both of them had brains. I'll bully them less in the future. The winners had a good impression of Li Yu and Meng Hao. However, he didn't know that these two bastards didn't have good intentions from the start. The final round of the finals has begun. There can only be one winner in the finals. We want to choose the strongest person in the outer sanctum. Since the winners of the preliminary round have different cultivation bases, the final round is the challenge round. The 20 victors could challenge each other. The loser loses everything, and the winner gains everything. Begin. With a single command, the finals began. In Tianlong, I Zhou Kai challenge you. Su Gu I Han Zong will fight you. Tong Yang, it's time to settle our old scores. One challenge after another began. For the sake of spirit stones and medicinal pills, for the sake of fame and status, for the sake of old grudges, the group of cultivators fought fiercely. Even though the sect elders and inner sanctum disciples were present, they didn't really kill him. But it was very common for one to lose an arm or a leg. Blood and flesh splattered everywhere. The challenge tournament is not divided by the number of matches. As long as the loser puts up another bet of the same value, he can continue to participate in the competition. Those who lost in the preliminary round and preliminary round, you are the same. As long as you put up a bet of the same value, whether it's Dharma treasures, medicinal pills, or spirit stones, you can challenge again. And so, a small group of people who were eliminated in the preliminary round and those who still had enough money to challenge, also joined in the challenge. Go to hell. The scene was very intense and the fight was a complete mess. Li Yu and Meng Hao crossed their arms and watched the show with smiles on their faces. All the heroes in the world are in my trap. This is strategizing. Meng Hao and Li Yu looked at each other and smiled. The two of them were very satisfied with this action of deceiving the entire outer sanctum. The challenge round was still going on. Seeing the winners covered in wounds and on the verge of collapse, those who were eliminated earlier couldn't hold back anymore. Wealth and silk moved people's hearts. As long as they won, they could gain countless treasures. Even if they were found trouble after they came down, but with so many resources in hand, couldn't they achieve a breakthrough in their cultivation? Couldn't they make friends with the elders in the sect? And so, the battle became even more intense. One by one, the challengers won or lost. The treasures gathered increased, and almost emptied the savings of the outer sect disciples. Ha 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 ha! I won! I won! I Han Zong won! The final winner, level 5 Qi condensation Han Zong, raised the storage bag of all the outer sect disciples and laughed maniacally. At this moment, Han Zong was covered in wounds and bleeding all over. He was on the verge of collapse. But there was no one left who could challenge him. The entire square was filled with injured people. Looking at the wanton Han Zong, the outer sect disciples could only hate him in their hearts, but there was nothing they could do. That was because they didn't even have the strength to move. Congratulations, senior brother Han. Congratulations. Li Yu and Meng Hao were all smiles as they congratulated Han Zong. Ha 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 ha. The two of you not bad. I've made a huge profit this time. From now on, I'll definitely take care of you. Now hand over the dry spirit pills. Even though Han Zong was covered in wounds and on the verge of collapse, he was still in high spirits. Meng Hao's face revealed a bashful expression as he rubbed his head in embarrassment. Senior brother Han, I'm sorry. I'm also an outer sect disciple. I can also challenge you. Han Zong's body trembled and he staggered. I'll cut the grass. So, there's actually such a thing? Meng Hao landed in front of Han Zong with a bashful look on his face. Then, he easily slapped the winner, who was on the verge of collapsing. Everyone looked at each other, dumbfounded. Their eyes burned with anger as Meng Hao reached out and took the bag of holding. He took the bag of holding containing all the treasures of the outer sect disciples. At this point, these two cheaters had dragged all the outer sect disciples to the bottom of the sea. Ha 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 ha. So that's how it is. These two little guys are interesting. Really too interesting. Ha 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 ha. When the Reliance sect leader He Luohua and Elder Ouyang Shi saw this, they laughed so hard that they couldn't breathe. As for Shangguan Xiu, who was in charge of the pill distribution ceremony, he was dumbfounded. Don't tell me. I've been played by these two little bastards? Behind Elder Shangguan, Su Qing and Chen Fan looked at each other. This works? This was especially true of Su Qing, a cold young girl. She suddenly felt that she couldn't understand these two scholars that she had captured to be servants. Indeed, scholars were all sly and cunning. You two little bastards dare to cheat us? You dare to cheat all of us? Humph. You may have the life to earn it, but you may not have the life to spend it. After offending all of us, even if they earned so much, they won't be able to live. The group of outer sect disciples who were lying paralyzed on the ground gnashed their teeth, their eyes filled with murderous intent. Ha ha! Since they dared to cheat you, how could we not have a countermeasure? Li Yu and Meng Hao laughed coldly. Chapter 1178. Elder Sister Su Qing. Meng Hao produced a jade box from his bag of holding. Holding it up with both hands, he bowed toward the platform. Elder Sister Su, the fact that I was able to join the School of Immortality and leave the mortal world was all because of the good fortune you bestowed upon me. Elder Sister Su, for bringing me into the sect of immortality, I can't thank you enough. I went to the pill cultivation workshop to purchase a cosmetic cultivation pill. Elder Sister Su Qing is naturally beautiful, so you don't need a cosmetic cultivation pill. This is a small token of my appreciation. I hope Elder Sister will kindly accept it. His actions caused everyone to stare in shock. Damn it! This guy actually had a trick up his sleeve? If he curried favor with Elder Sister Su Qing, it would be a big problem. Su Qing was one of the only two inner sect disciples in the Reliance sect. Her status was unapproachable. If Meng Hao befriended Su Qing, which outer sect disciple would dare to have any ideas about them? Humph! Su Qing glared at Meng Hao. She wasn't stupid. How could she not know that Meng Hao was using her as a decoy? But these two guys were really interesting. She decided to give them a hand and see how far they could go. You're quite considerate. Su Qing nodded coolly. She waved her hand and the jade box flew into her hand. Since you gave me a gift, I'll give you one in return. She pulled out a jade slip and tossed it to Meng Hao. This is my immortal's cave from when I was cultivating in the outer sect. I can lend it to you for your cultivation. Many thanks, elder sister. Meng Hao had only intended to use her as a decoy. He had never imagined that Su Qing would actually accept it. This was just a decoy. Originally, the two of them had discussed various ways to escape. Who would have thought that they wouldn't need to use them at all? The problem had been solved so easily. Su Qing had accepted the cosmetic cultivation pill, and even returned a gift. Meng Hao felt a bit ashamed that he had used elder sister Su's decoy to escape. "I'm very dissatisfied with your methods. A gentleman's integrity lies in his virtue." Elder brother Chen Fan frowned as he looked over at Li Yu and Meng Hao. He began to babble on, causing everyone to feel drowsy. "Since you can still be saved, I'll lend you my immortal's cave. I left a lot of books in the cave. Since you are all scholars, you should learn more from the words of the saint. I hope you can correct your ways of doing things in the future." With that, Chen Fan threw a jade slip into Li Yu's hand. Senior brother Chen Fan is also related to them? This time, all the outer court disciples were completely dumbfounded. Could it be that only by deceiving people like this could he enter the eyes of the sect's higher-ups? Looks like I'll have to learn more in the future. The feats of these two scammers were extremely poisonous. This made the atmosphere of the Reliance sect even more inexplicable. "Today you gave me a gift. In the future, I will also give you a gift. I'll spare you from that miserable fate." Li Yu put away the jade slip and cupped his fists at Chen Fan. Originally, Chen Fan had been a strong and upright young man. However, in order to resurrect his lover, Mountain Spirit, he had fallen into the hands of all heaven and been used as a pawn to harm Meng Hao. Chen Fan died by Meng Hao's hand in excruciating pain. Today's grand pill releasing assembly broadened this seat's horizons. That's right. Not bad. Elder Shangguan looked meaningfully at Li Yu and Meng Hao. His gaze lingered on Meng Hao's bag of holding for a moment. Then he waved his sleeve, and a dense cloud of light rose up and shot off into the sky. "That old bastard Shangguan, when he left, his gaze was fixed on our bags of holding?" Meng Hao frowned. As an elder of the sect, he wouldn't be so jealous of such a small amount of wealth, would he? "That's possible." Li Yu shrugged. "But when that old bastard released the pills, it was obvious that he was targeting us. He wanted to trick us. After tricking us, he still wants to split the spoils? Humph. I've never been a broad-minded person. Heh. Requite evil with good. How do you repay good with good?" Meng Hao laughed coldly. "That old bastard Shangguan will have plenty of opportunities to trick him in the future. Let's go. Let's go back and take care of these treasures to avoid any mishaps." Li Yu took out the jade slip that Chen Fan had given him and activated it with a bit of spiritual energy. Following the guidance, he hurried back to the Immortal's cave. "Just you wait. I won't let this matter rest. Even if you curried favor with Elder Sister Su and Elder Brother Chen, the outer sect belongs to Elder Brother Wang Tengfei. When Elder Brother Wang comes out of secluded meditation, it'll be your time to die." Seeing Meng Hao and Li Yu leave, the group of outer sect disciples on the ground ground their teeth and cursed. Li Yu and Meng Hao turned a deaf ear to their curses. With a wave of their sleeves, they floated away. Our Immortals' caves aren't too far apart. In the outer sect of the Reliance sect, there were 2 mountain peaks, each with an Immortals' cave. This was Li Yu and Meng Hao's new residence. "Let's go to yours first." The Immortals' cave in front of them was the one that Su Qing had given to Meng Hao. Li Yu and Meng Hao used the jade slip to open the restrictive spell and enter the Immortals' cave. What a dense spiritual energy! As they entered the Immortals' cave, they saw a sparkling, translucent spiritual light. The dense spiritual energy transformed into a haze that filled the entire Immortals' cave. No wonder it's Elder Sister Su's Immortals' cave. It really is extraordinary. Meng Hao nodded his head in praise. He took out his bag of holding, his eyes shining. "Brother Li, we're rich." Opening the bag of holding, Meng Hao pulled out bottles of medicinal pills, spirit stones, and magical items. They were piled high in the Immortal's cave. The dazzling jewels filled the eyes. All the savings of the outer sect disciples have been swept clean by us. Sure enough, planning and strategizing is the way to get rich. Looking at the pile of treasures, Meng Hao's face glowed with excitement. Keep all the medicinal pills you need to increase your cultivation base. With these medicinal pills and the abundant spiritual energy in the Immortal's cave, you can immediately go into secluded meditation. If you don't use up all the medicinal pills and increase your cultivation base to the 5th level of qi condensation, don't come out. If he didn't hurry up and increase his strength after conning all the outer sect disciples, he would be digging his own grave. Even if he used Su Qing as a cover, but Su Qing couldn't protect him all the time. If he was secretly harmed, without any evidence, Su Qing wouldn't be able to do anything. But, Brother Li Yu, if he took all the medicinal pills to increase his cultivation base, then what about Li Yu? Meng Hao didn't want to split the spoils and cause disagreements between them, which would affect their friendship. Don't worry about me. Li Yu looked at Meng Hao with a smile. He released the fluctuations of his spiritual energy, and an enormous amount of spiritual energy surged out. Brother Li Yu, what stage are you at? Feeling the enormous fluctuations of spiritual energy, Meng Hao was dumbstruck. I'm only at the 6th level of qi condensation. I'm a bit special. You can keep these things to yourself. I don't really need them. Even if Li Yu sealed his cultivation base, with his natural talent, he could reach the qi condensation stage in a matter of minutes. If it weren't for the fact that he wanted to try out the Sublime Spirit Scripture's so-called perfect foundation, Li Yu would have been able to increase his cultivation base even more. Don't tell anyone. If he reached the 6th level of qi condensation in less than a month, it would probably shock everyone in the Reliance sect. Li Yu naturally didn't want to cause such a ruckus. Brother Li really is extraordinary. Meng Hao had long since known that Li Yu had an extraordinary background, so he wasn't surprised that Li Yu had such a cultivation base. Many thanks for your kindness, Brother Li. I accept it. Li Yu didn't need these things, but Meng Hao didn't think they were enough. With these things, after his cultivation base breakthrough, he wouldn't have to worry about anyone causing trouble. Chapter 1179. Brotherly, last time you said that this copper mirror is a precious treasure? Meng Hao took out the copper mirror and the stone pearl. He smiled at Li Yu. Now that we have so many spirit stones, can we give it a try? Let's give it a try. Li Yu naturally knew what the copper mirror was about, so he let Meng Hao give it a try. Alright. Meng Hao nodded his head. He picked up the copper mirror and placed it next to the pile of spirit stones. Buzz! The copper mirror emitted a humming sound, and a powerful suction force appeared. The spirit stones on the ground flew up one by one and were sucked into the copper mirror. In just a moment, the pile of spirit stones was sucked into the copper mirror. Meng Hao was dumbfounded. Over 1,000 spirit stones in a single meal, this plaything. Who could afford to raise it? With these spirit stones, this precious treasure can be considered to have been activated. Li Yu laughed. Do you see the 2 pits on the back of the copper mirror? Put the stone pearl into them. This is only the initial activation? Meng Hao shook his head. Precious treasures were good, but they were too expensive. I hope its functions aren't too bad. Otherwise, the losses will outweigh the gains. Sighing helplessly, Meng Hao picked up the stone pearl and placed it into one of the pits on the back of the copper mirror. Buzz! The copper mirror shook violently and flew out of his hand to float in midair. The stone pearl and the copper mirror emitted a multicolored light. The gray stone bead shed its outer layer under the light, turning into a black bead that was as black as ink. Then, it sank into a pit behind the bronze mirror. Buzz! The light faded away, and the copper mirror floated down into Meng Hao's hand. Brotherly, this copper mirror, What is so special about it? Meng Hao asked Li Yu, seeing that Li Yu seemed to know a lot about the copper mirror. This mirror is not ordinary. Its origin is shocking. However, it is not complete yet. It does not have the power to pierce through the heavens, but its functions are still very mysterious. Li Yu pointed at the bronze mirror and said with a smile, "The black pillar behind the bronze mirror has the power of a curse. It can suppress an enemy's cultivation by one stage. For example, if the enemy is at the 7th level of qi condensation, you can use the copper mirror to suppress his strength to the 6th level." It's actually so magical? Meng Hao's eyes glittered, and his heart filled with joy. This kind of heaven-defying divine ability was simply too useful when dealing with enemies. Yes, because the bronze mirror was incomplete, its ability to suppress the enemy's cultivation base would not be too strong. You're in the qi condensation stage, so you can only suppress it. The suppression ability is related to your own cultivation. Li Yu waved his hand and a dry spirit pill appeared on the ground. He handed it over to Meng Hao. Now, let's begin the second function of the copper mirror. Copy. Duplicate? Meng Hao was shocked. What do you think it's going to make a copy out of nothing? He brought the dry spirit pill closer to the surface of the mirror. His jaw dropped as he watched the copper mirror emit a multicolored glow. Slowly, another dry spirit pill appeared. Oh my God! I'm rich! I'm rich! A precious treasure! It's really a precious treasure! If I can duplicate anything, then in the future will I ever be short of money? I can duplicate as much as I want, right? Meng Hao was so happy that he danced with joy. Don't be happy too early. You'll always be short of money. Li Yu shook his head. Do you think the copper mirror's duplication ability doesn't cost anything? The reason it can duplicate the dry spirit pill is because it absorbed a pile of spirit stones. If you want to duplicate something, you have to give it enough spirit stones. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head. Meng Hao's face fell. How could this not be short of money? This was clearly a bottomless pit. No matter how much money you have, you can spend it all. Oh right, the copper mirror also has a very special function. A strange smile appeared on Li Yu's face. Find a hairy demonic beast and try it on it. Then you'll know what the copper mirror's special function is. I hope you won't be too surprised. The copper mirror's spirit, the mixed-feathered parrot Lord Fifth, had a special hobby. He was very interested in hairy demonic beasts. Furthermore, he was fond of the anise flower. Such a shocking function. Meng Hao wanted to broaden his horizons. A function to deal with demonic beasts? It really is a precious treasure. As soon as it was activated, it already had 3 powerful functions. Meng Hao was very satisfied with the copper mirror. He loved it so much that he couldn't put it down. Take your time to study it. Li Yu casually picked up a 3-foot-long sword from the pile of magical items on the ground. He waved his hand at Meng Hao, then turned and left the immortal's cave. That fatty from the treasure pavilion tricked I once. I'm a very open-minded person, so of course I won't be so narrow-minded. I definitely won't take revenge on him. Definitely not. A strange smile appeared on Li Yu's face. I gave him some advice on how to make money. That was helping a fellow disciple. How could that be considered revenge? Li Yu leisurely strode through the outer sect. Under the furious gazes of the severely injured outer sect disciples who had lost all of their magical treasures, medicinal pills, and spirit stones, they gritted their teeth and walked toward the treasure pavilion. Elder brother, I'm here. Li Yu smiled as he walked into the treasure pavilion. He greeted the fatty. What are you doing here? You want to trade for magical items? 1 spirit stone, no bargaining. The fatty glanced at Li Yu, then slapped the armrest of his chair. His posture was quite haughty. The fatty was in charge of the treasure pavilion. Because he had an important mission, he couldn't leave the treasure pavilion. He hadn't attended the pill assembly, so he hadn't seen how Li Yu and Meng Hao had tricked the outer sect. Elder brother, I'm embarrassed at the moment. I don't have any spirit stones. What are you doing here if you don't have any spirit stones? Go. 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 Go play somewhere else. Wait until you have spirit stones. The fatty waved his hand disdainfully. Elder brother, I've come because I have a way to get rich. I want to discuss it with you. Li Yu didn't seem to mind the fatty's attitude at all. Instead, he smiled even more amiably. Elder brother, during today's pill assembly, someone tricked everyone in the outer sect. He caused all of the outer sect disciples to lose all of their magical items, spirit stones, and medicinal pills. Huh? Everyone's magical items, medicinal pills, and spirit stones? My God, how much money would that be worth? The fatty jumped up in shock, and the fat on his face jiggled. Then, he hung his head dejectedly. No matter how much he earns, it's none of my business. Hee. Elder brother, don't you think this is a good opportunity to get rich? Li Yu lowered his voice mysteriously. Elder brother, all of the outer sect disciples lost their magical items. And you have countless magical items. These belong to the sect. Would I dare to be greedy? Would I dare to sell them? I, Ma Changhe, may be greedy, but I won't court death. The fatty rolled his eyes and snorted. Who said I'm selling them? Naturally, I can't sell the sect's items privately. But what if I rent them? Let them use their identity tokens as collateral to rent the magical items? Li Yu's voice was like the devil's temptation. Elder brother, think about it. With the identity token as collateral, whoever borrows a magical item won't be able to escape. Even if it's damaged, he wouldn't dare to not compensate. In this way, wouldn't he be able to collect a lot of rental fees? This fatty Ma Changhe rolled his eyes, and then he pointed at Li Yu with a righteous face and angrily rebuked. You bastard, I, Ma Changhe, am the managing disciple of the treasure pavilion. How could I do such a thing? Get lost. Don't dirty my ears with such filthy words. Elder brother is upright and plain-spoken. I'm ashamed. I'll take my leave. Under Ma Changhe's righteous rebuke, Li Yu's face was full of shame as he covered his face and fled. Hee. I've shown you a way to get rich. I don't believe you won't fall into my trap. Li Yu turned around and glanced at the treasure pavilion. His face was full of smiles. You dare to trick me? I have always been the one to trick others. You dare to trick me? Your courage is admirable. Chapter 1180. A day later, a piece of news began to spread among the outer sect disciples. Senior brother Ma of the treasure pavilion couldn't bear to see his fellow disciples lose their magical items. Taking a huge risk, he gave his fellow disciples a chance to use their identity medallions as collateral to rent magical items. And so, the outer sect disciples who had lost their magical items could only go to Ma Changhe to rent magical items. After all, in the early and middle stages of qi condensation, not having magical items on hand meant that one's battle prowess was reduced by more than half. Whether it was seeking revenge on Li Yu and Meng Hao, or the competition at the pill distribution assembly, they couldn't do without magical items. Because of this, senior brother Ma of the treasure pavilion's magical item rental business was in full swing. Sit and watch him build a skyscraper. Sit and watch him entertain guests. Li Yu hummed a song to the beat, then waved his hand to seal the entrance to the Immortal's cave. Ma Changhe had already fallen into a trap. All they had to do was wait for him to collapse. Next is to wait for the inner sect promotion ceremony to begin. After entering the inner sect, I'll go to Old Turtle Reliance's Immortal's cave and study the Sublime Spirit scripture. Li Yu closed his eyes and began to doze off. In the back mountains of the Reliance sect, in the depths of the Black Mountain, there's a dead rain dragon. This was Wang Tingfei's opportunity, but Meng Hao snatched it away. Li Yu chuckled. Wang Tengfei is a descendant of Wang Lin or Wang Yu. If you don't provoke me, I won't interfere. But if you do... Boom! Just as he was thinking this, Li Yu's Immortal's Cave suddenly exploded. The entire Immortal's Cave shook violently. Someone's attacking the Immortal's Cave? Li Yu blinked, a look of surprise on his face. This is Chen Fan's Immortal's Cave. Someone dares to attack it? This is interesting. He stood up and walked to the Immortal's Cave. With a wave of his hand, Li Yu unlocked the Immortal's Cave and stepped out. You dare to walk out of the door? You really do have some gut. A group of people appeared at the entrance of the cave residence. Surrounded by a group of people, a handsome young master wearing a brocade robe walked towards Li Yu. I'm Wang Tengfei. The brocade-robed young master's face was full of spring breeze and gentle like jade, as if he was very approachable. However, his indifferent eyes revealed a sense of pride that came from his bones. His sleeves fluttered in the wind as he walked with a majestic gait. Upon closer inspection, they discovered that Wang Tengfei's feet did not touch the ground at all. Instead, he was hovering 3 inches above the ground, treading on air. In front of Li Yu, Wang Tengfei stopped and stood with his hands behind his back. His tall and straight figure was like a deep abyss, and his bearing was dignified. This young master has been in seclusion for many days, but I didn't expect someone like you to appear in the outer sect. Wang Tengfei looked up at Li Yu and nodded slightly. To be able to trick all the outer sect disciples with a cultivation level of first-level qi condensation, you are quite capable. However, although your intelligence is good, your methods are somewhat lacking. Wang Tengfei looked down at Li Yu and slowly shook his head. Of course, that's not the main point. The main point is, you stirred up trouble in the outer sect. Did you ask this young master? Without my permission, you dare to be impudent in the outer sect? Wang Tengfei sneered and glanced at Li Yu. Seeing that you are new here and don't know the rules, this young master will not make things difficult for you. This young master will not make things difficult for you. As long as you return all the treasures you took from everyone and kowtow to apologize. This matter, this young master will make the decision and let bygones be bygones. Ha ha! Li Yu smiled faintly. Since you've come here, this is your first stop, right? You didn't go to Meng Hao's place? It's on the way. Don't worry, after dealing with you, this young master will naturally go find that Meng Hao. Wang Tengfei smiled and shook his head. Don't think that by using Su Qing and Chen Fan's tiger skin, this young master will be afraid. In fact, this young master doesn't even put them in his eyes. Your tiger skin is useless. So you haven't gone to Meng Hao's place, then I'm relieved. Waving a finger in front of his eyes, Li Yu's face was full of mockery. You just said that you want me to return the treasures? Why should I return the treasures that I got with my own ability? What's more, you want me to return them just because you said so. Who do you think you are? Impudent! How dare you? You're looking for death. Li Yu's words of, "Who do you think you are?" made the lackeys around Wang Tengfei shocked and angry. They all jumped up and screamed at Li Yu, cursing and swearing. Good, good, good. Wang Tengfei's pupils shrank and his face was cold. Very good. I didn't think that the small country of Zhao would have someone like you. You are the first person who dares to speak to this young master like that. I admire your courage. Ha ha. Just the opposite. You are the first person who dares to speak to me like that. Li Yu smiled and shook his head. In fact, ever since Li Yu activated the system, other than at the beginning, there were still people who acted pretentious in front of Li Yu. After that, as long as they heard the name of Li Yu, they would be scared half to death. There really weren't many who dared to speak to Li Yu like that. Good, good. This young master wants to see what gave you the courage. His eyes emitted a cold light. Wang Tengfei stretched out a finger and pointed at Li Yu. With a point of his finger, a wave of cold air surged up, as if everything in the world was going to be frozen in this wave of cold. Nirvana of heaven and earth. Nirvana of all things. Nirvana of all things. This was the finger of Nirvana. Wang Tengfei's background was not ordinary. This was an ancestral peerless divine ability that was completely different from the current world's power system. It had an unparalleled divine power. Concept of Nirvana? A divine ability passed down by Wang Yu? Li Yu smiled and shook his head, thinking to himself, "Your family's old ancestors were all taught by me. You actually used their divine ability to attack me? You have heaven and earth Nirvana, I have all things breeding." Similarly extending a finger, a surge of vitality, all things breeding power erupted from Li Yu's fingertip. Pu work, two fingers intersected, exploding with a low and deep light sound. The power of heaven and earth Nirvana and all things breeding mutually annihilated each other the instant the two fingers intersected, dissipating without a trace. Wang Tengfei staggered back 2 steps, looking at Li Yu with a face full of horror. "You? Who are you?" This Li Yu is actually evenly matched with young Master Wang? How is this possible? The group of lackeys behind Wang Tengfei were all dumbstruck with fright. Just what is his background? The expression on Wang Tengfei's face flickered incessantly, looking at Li Yu with a face full of surprise. As of this moment, Wang Tengfei understood. This so-called scholar from Yunjie County in the state of Zhao was definitely suspicious. He must have another identity that was even more deeply hidden. Could it be that he was from some clan or sect, and had come to the Reliance sect with designs on the sublime spirit scripture? Who am I? Am I not Li Yu? Li Yu retracted his finger, a calm smile on his face. Li? Your surname is Li. Wang Tengfei's heart trembled and his face grew solemn. He quickly put away his arrogant attitude and clasped hands in greeting to Li Yu. So it's Brother Li. In the entire planet South Heaven, there were only 3 people with the surname Li who had a powerful background. The first was Lord Li, the previous ruler of the 9th mountain and sea. The second was the Li clan of the Great Tang of the Eastern lands. The third was one of the 3 great clans of the southern domain, along with the Wang clan. Regardless of his background, this Li Yu was not someone to be trifled with. So it's Brother Li. I apologize for any offense just now. Wang Tengfei clasped hands in greeting, then turned to look at his lackeys. If any of you reveal even half a word about what you saw just now, I'll exterminate your entire clan. We wouldn't dare. We wouldn't dare. The lackeys were so scared that their souls almost left their bodies. They didn't even dare to raise their heads. Brother Li, please forgive us for any offense just now. I won't disturb your cultivation any longer. Farewell. With that, Wang Tengfei clasped hands and left with his lackeys. Although you're a bit arrogant, but you're still a descendant of Wang Lin or Wang Yu. I hope you can restrain yourself a bit. Otherwise, your future will be miserable. Li Yu shook his head and returned to his immortal's cave. Chapter 1181. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. Ever since Wang Tengfei had come looking for them and been beaten back by Li Yu, the Reliance sect had been peaceful. No one came looking for trouble with Li Yu and Meng Hao. Meng Hao swallowed countless pills, and his cultivation base continued to break through. After taking 3 dry spirit pills, Meng Hao officially reached the 6th level of qi condensation. The 6th level of qi condensation was the strongest outer sect disciple in the Reliance sect. He could now participate in the inner sect trials and be promoted to inner sect disciple. Thank you, Brother Li, for your help. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to reach the 6th level of qi condensation so easily. Meng Hao opened his immortal's cave, which had been sealed for 2 months. He took out a flying sword and rode it to Li Yu's immortal's cave. You're out? The 6th level of qi condensation? Not bad. Li Yu sat at a stone table in front of the immortal's cave. Seeing Meng Hao ride his flying sword, he smiled and nodded. At the 6th level of qi condensation, one could use magical items to fly. However, if one wanted to truly soar through the air, one would have to reach the foundation establishment stage. Even if he were to fly with his Dharma artifact, he wouldn't be able to fly too far. Thank you, Brother Li, for your help. Landing on the stone table, Meng Hao put away his flying sword and clasped his hands in thanks to Li Yu. You're welcome. Li Yu shook his head and gestured for Meng Hao to sit down on the stool across from him. After Meng Hao sat down, Li Yu continued, You're already at the 6th level of qi condensation. You meet the requirements to be promoted to the inner sect. Although the Reliance sect has declined, the inner sect is still worth a visit. Brother Li, please enlighten me. Meng Hao already knew that Li Yu had an extraordinary background. For such an extraordinary person to conceal his identity and join the Reliance sect, there had to be a reason. The Reliance sect has a lost technique called the Qi Condensation chapter of the Sublime Spirit Scripture. It's the best Qi Condensation Foundation establishment technique in the world. It can create a flawless foundation. If you have the opportunity, you might even be able to build a perfect foundation. Li Yu picked up a cup of tea and handed it to Meng Hao. Flawless foundation? Perfect foundation? Meng Hao was completely at a loss when it came to these two terms. Cultivators cultivate qi, absorb the qi of heaven and earth, and seize the good fortune of heaven and earth. Naturally, they would be envied by heaven and earth. Li Yu took a sip from his teacup, then explained, when a cultivator reaches the foundation establishment stage, he forms his 9 Tao pillars. Due to the limitations of heaven and earth, cracks appeared on the Tao platform, draining vital energy. If there was only one crack, it would be called flawless. If there are a lot of cracks, then there are flaws or broken plates. Then, if there are no cracks, then it's a perfect foundation. Meng Hao deduced many things from one instance, and immediately understood what a perfect foundation meant. A perfect foundation allows one to absorb heaven and earth yuan qi without losing any of it. This is going against the will of the heavens, and will be punished by the heavens. If you want to walk the path of a perfect foundation, you must have the courage to go against the will of the heavens. Li Yu looked deeply at Meng Hao. The path to a perfect foundation is extremely difficult, and requires enough opportunity. If you can enter the inner sect and gain enlightenment of the Qi Condensation chapter of the Sublime Spirit Scripture, you will have a flawless foundation. Only then will you have a chance to reach a perfect foundation. So that's how it is. Meng Hao nodded. So you're saying that entering the inner... Walking into the room, Meng Hao could feel the fluctuations of spiritual power emanating from Little Fatty's body. He smiled and shook his head. This guy really is gifted. To be able to cultivate while sleeping, this is definitely a peerless talent that countless people can only dream of. Little Fatty, your drumstick has been stolen by someone. Meng Hao walked up to the bed and roared at the little fatty who was sleeping soundly on the bed. Stole my chicken leg? Who has the guts to do that? Little fatty roared and jumped off the bed. Opening his sleepy eyes, he saw Meng Hao and Li Yu. Brother Hao, you're here. This is great. Seeing Li Yu and Meng Hao, little fatty immediately woke up. His heart was filled with joy as he laughed. I haven't seen you guys in months, I'm so bored here. You don't have to stay here. Come, follow us to the outer sect. You're already at the 1st level of Qi Condensation. You can become an official disciple now. Meng Hao smiled at little fatty. I'm already at the 1st level of Qi Condensation? It's true. That's great. Li Fugue jumped up in joy. Let's go. After receiving a jade slip from the honor guard disciple, the 3 of them left the servant's office and hurried toward the outer sect. Brother Hao, there's something I need to tell you. As they walked, a sad expression appeared on Li Fugue's face. Looking at Li Yu and Meng Hao, he said, "A few days ago, I saw Hu Zi." He said, "Wang Yukai is dead." "Wang Yukai is dead?" When Meng Hao heard the news, he let out a long sigh. Wang Yukai, Dong Hu, and the three of them had all entered the Reliance sect together. Now one of them was gone. This caused Meng Hao's heart to fill with sadness. "So it's already happened?" When Li Yu heard the news, he shook his head inwardly. The other pearl on the copper mirror, the one that could increase one's cultivation base by 1 level, had been discovered by Dong Hu and Wang Yukai. In the process of snatching the pearl, Dong Hu had knocked Wang Yukai off the cliff. Wang Yukai fell off the cliff and was rescued by Patriarch Blood Demon, who took him into the Blood Demon sect. Dong Hu spent his entire life refining the pearl, and in the end gave it to Meng Hao. Li Yu laughed. "If we run into each other again, I'll help you out. If we don't, then we're not fated to meet." Chapter 1182. Has Patriarch Blood Demon already arrived at the Reliance sect? Wang Yotsai's rescue proved that Patriarch Blood Demon had arrived. Li Yu smiled and shook his head. Patriarch Blood Demon wants to change the way the League of Demon Sealers does things. Did he come to the Reliance sect to find a successor to the League of Demon Sealers? Patriarch Blood Demon didn't have any ill intentions. In fact, he had good intentions. Li Yu didn't care about such things. Li Yu and Meng Hao headed out together to escort Fatty Li Fugue to the outer sect disciples' quarters. The outer sect disciples they met along the way all looked at them. However, after Li Yu had defeated Wang Tengfei, his reputation had spread throughout the outer sect. Fatty Li Fugue was now someone they couldn't afford to offend. "Fatty," said Meng Hao, "the magical items and medicinal pills are all yours. Cultivate on your own. If you need anything, come find us." After all, the path of cultivation had to be walked by oneself. Giving him a hand and sending him on his way was the greatest help they could provide. After giving Fatty some instructions, Li Yu and Meng Hao left the outer sect and returned to their respective Immortals' Cave. "I've seen the copper mirror's duplicating abilities," said Meng Hao. "It can suppress an enemy's cultivation base by 1 level. As for the special ability Brother Li mentioned, I haven't tested it yet." After returning to his Immortals' Cave, Meng Hao took out the copper mirror. He wanted to test its power. After all, at this stage, magical items were the most important part of a cultivator's battle prowess. Familiarizing himself with their abilities and practicing how to use them was the most important task. Thinking of this, Meng Hao walked out of his Immortals' Cave. The special ability Brother Li mentioned can only be used in battle with demonic beasts. "I guess I'll have to go to the Black Mountain." Behind the Reliance sect was an enormous mountain, home to countless demonic beasts. It was perfect for Meng Hao to test out the power of his magical items. He took out a flying sword and flew up into the air, heading in the direction of the Black Mountain. A moment later, he arrived at the Black Mountain. A whoa! Roar! As he entered the Black Mountain, he heard the roars of beasts. There really are countless demonic beasts. Given my current cultivation base, the Black Mountain shouldn't be too dangerous. It's a good opportunity for me to practice my spells and familiarize myself with the control of artifact. Grabbing the copper mirror, he leaped into the air and headed deep into the Black Mountain. Iolo, just as they entered the mountain, a huge green wolf about 10 feet long flashed out from behind the cliff. Its light green fur fluttered in the wind, and its sharp fangs flashed with a cold light. The huge green wolf leaped up and pounced toward Meng Hao. Buzz, the azure wolf pounced. Meng Hao was just about to activate his flying sword to attack when suddenly, the copper mirror in his hand began to vibrate violently, as if it were about to fly out of his hand. Is this the copper mirror's special ability to restrain demonic beasts? The eager copper mirror in his hand seemed to have awakened. It was as if the copper mirror had developed an indescribable excitement and desire for this green wolf. It is indeed a special ability to restrain demonic beasts. Meng Hao sighed in admiration. He grabbed the copper mirror and pointed it at the incoming azure wolf. Whoosh! An inexplicable stream of air rushed out of the bronze mirror. As if it was filled with an inexplicable excitement, this stream of air broke through the air and instantly rushed to the green wolf's buttocks. Bang! 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 A series of rapid impact sounds rang out. The charging azure wolf's entire body shook, and it staggered and fell to the ground. Aolo, as if it was suffering an indescribable pain, the green wolf's dark green eyes bulged. It seemed to be in disbelief, and also extremely humiliated. Bang! In the next moment, the azure wolf's tail suddenly exploded. Its entire hind leg and buttocks were hit by the inexplicable stream of air, and exploded into a pile of minced meat. Aolo, the azure wolf, let out a long, mournful howl and fell to the ground. His angry eyes seemed to be filled with endless humiliation. Buzz! The inexplicable stream of air seemed to be extremely happy as it spiraled back into the copper mirror. What is this situation? Seeing this scene, Meng Hao was dumbfounded. Is this the copper mirror's special ability to restrain demonic beasts? Why do I feel like there's something strange about this? An illusion. It must be an illusion. How could such a profound and unfathomable treasure have such an indescribable ability? It can't be like this. I must be wrong. Meng Hao took a deep breath, and hurriedly discarded the indescribable conjecture that appeared in his mind. If I continue to test it, I should be able to find out the truth of this ability. Leaving the azure wolf behind, Meng Hao rushed into the forest. Chirp chirp! A azure cloud bird with gorgeous feathers, dragging a long tail, whistled past in front of him. Buzz! The copper mirror in Meng Hao's hand once again exploded with an invisible stream of air. Bang! Feathers fluttered and blood splattered everywhere. This azure cloud bird's buttocks were suddenly smashed by an invisible force. This is a coincidence. It must be a coincidence. Meng Hao fiercely shook his head. Bang! A golden-haired giant ape was once again smashed by the invisible stream of air from the copper mirror, its buttocks. Bang! A long-haired giant bear's buttocks exploded, and it howled as it fell to the ground. Bang! 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 One by one, demonic beasts fell to the ground. As long as it was a demonic beast with abundant body hair, without exception, their buttocks exploded and died. This, Meng Hao was completely stupefied. Once could be a coincidence, twice could be a coincidence, but 3 times, 4 times, countless times, it was a certainty. Meng Hao looked at the copper mirror in his hand, a strange expression on his face. Why does the copper mirror attack demonic beasts in such a special way? Don't tell me. The expert who created this copper mirror has some sort of indescribable hobby? Meng Hao's entire body trembled, and he inwardly rejoiced. Luckily I'm human, and I don't have abundant body hair. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. If Patriarch Vast Expanse knew what Meng Hao was thinking, he would definitely say, I won't take the blame for this. The multicolored parrot was messing around on its own. It had nothing to do with him. I was too shocked just now. I didn't even collect demonic cores. Demonic cores were formed by demonic beasts breathing in and out the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Their value was no less than chi condensation pills. Demonic cores were also valuable items. Meng Hao loved wealth, and when he thought about the dozens of demonic cores he had yet to collect, he beat his chest and stamped his feet. That was all money. There are so many demonic beasts on the mountain, and the copper mirror can control them. Doesn't that mean I'm rich? Thinking about the demonic cores he had collected, Meng Hao could accept the copper mirror's strange abilities. Bang! One of the furry demonic beasts fell to the ground. Meng Hao leaped forward, using a flying sword to slice open its head and extract a thumb-sized demonic core. I'm rich. I'm rich. Meng Hao put away the demonic core. His eyes shone with a golden light as he charged into the depths of the Black Mountain. Banging sounds could be heard as he swept through the demonic beast. Without even realizing it, Meng Hao had made his way into the depths of the Black Mountain. Roar! A heaven-shaking, earth-shattering roar filled the air. Up ahead in the valley, a gigantic, pitch-black snake, 300 meters long, lifted its head up and roared madly. In the blink of an eye, the wind and clouds surged. Sand and pebbles flew about, and an enormous amount of demonic chi shot up into the sky. Hiss, there's actually such a terrifying demonic beast? Meng Hao looked at the gigantic snake, and his eyes filled with shock. What shocked him even more was that he suddenly saw a sword at the tail end of the roaring snake. A sword that had nailed the gigantic black snake to the ground. To be able to nail such a terrifying gigantic snake to the ground, that sword must be a precious treasure. Meng Hao's eyes shone with a golden light. Chapter 1183. I've been waiting for this moment for so long. Hearing the roar from the Black Mountain, Wang Tengfei stood up, face wreathed in smiles. Looking at the dark red mark on the back of his hand, and feeling the heat emanating from it, Wang Tengfei laughed heartily. That year I was only 5 years old. One day, an injured flying rain dragon flew across the sky. Coincidentally, a drop of blood fell on the back of my hand and left this mark on me. Stepping out of the Immortal's cave, Wang Tengfei looked in the direction of the Black Mountain. His smile grew even more radiant. Following the reaction of this mark, I found this place. The flying rain dragon, the sovereign of the skies, a peerless greater demon. This is my opportunity, this is my inheritance. To rise above the rest of the clan, to compete with my brother for the position of Tao Child, this is my capital. With the flying rain dragon's legacy, and the sublime spirit scripture's flawless foundation, I can become the Wang clan's Tao Child. Over the years, I've flipped through countless ancient records, and learned the truth about the flying rain dragon's fall. It was an immortal realm expert who fought with the flying rain dragon. Besides the flying rain dragon, the immortal's legacy, and the immortal's precious treasure, are even greater rewards. This is the capital that will allow me, Wang Tengfei, to soar. Stepping out of the immortal's cave, Wang Tengfei found a group of people standing in front of him. One of them was Shang Guanxiu, but the others were not from the Reliance sect. Let's go. Wang Tengfei waved his hand in high spirits, leading the group toward the back of the mountain. With Shang Guanxiu's help, and 9 clan guards at the 7th level of Qi condensation, this trip would be a complete success. But Liu shook his head. So, this is your destiny. Although my appearance prevented you from directly clashing with Meng Hao. But Meng Hao still arrived at the place where the flying rain dragon perished before you did. After leaving the Immortal's cave, Liu turned to look in the direction of the Black Mountain. Seeing Wang Tengfei leading a group of people toward the Black Mountain, he smiled and shook his head. Young man, you're too late. Roar. Sure enough, at this time, the huge black snake suddenly roared, and a ray of light rushed out of its head, revealing the image of a huge dragon with 2 wings on its back. Bang! A loud sound was heard. The huge black snake soared into the sky. It was wrapped up by the shadow of the winged dragon. It whistled as it soared into the sky. Then, it disappeared into the horizon. The winged dragon's body perished, but one of its tails re-emerged as a demon. As expected of the monarch of the skies, an ancient mutated beast. Liu smiled and nodded. He lifted his eyes and looked into the depths of the Black Mountain. By now, Meng Hao should have succeeded, right? Sure enough, a moment later, Liu saw a figure rush out from the edge of the Black Mountain. It was Meng Hao. His face was filled with excitement, and his eyes glittered with golden light. His blood was boiling, and he shot back to the Immortal's cave on the South Mountain at a speed several times greater than normal. Huff, huff! Meng Hao put his hands on his hips and panted heavily. His face was full of excitement as he smiled at Li Yu. Brother Li, we're rich. I'm rich. Adjust your breathing and stabilize your mind. This matter, I'm afraid it's going to be a bit troublesome. Li Yu waved his hand. A gentle breeze swept over Meng Hao, covering up the winged dragon's aura. He handed a cup of tea to Meng Hao. Drink some tea and calm your mind. Is there a problem? Meng Hao's eyes flashed. He nodded and took the cup of tea from Li Yu. He sat down on the stone bench across from Li Yu. Huff, 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 huff. He took a long, deep breath, allowing the churning qi and blood in his body to calm down. He lifted his teacup and took a sip. His face was as calm as the clouds and the wind, as if nothing had happened at all. Since we're free today, why don't we have a game of chess? Li Yu waved his hand and released a chess scale. He waved his hand and scattered black and white chess pieces. He set up a game on the chessboard. To be able to play chess with Brother Li, I am deeply honored. Meng Hao picked up a chess piece and calmly began to play chess with Li Yu. Who is it? Who stole my opportunity? Who stole my treasure? Who stole my inheritance? At this time, a roar of anger and unwillingness rang out from the Black Mountain. Crazy roars, mournful roars, and furious roars, one after another, shook the heavens and earth, one after another, soared into the sky. The unwillingness and indignation were difficult to describe with words. Is this the number one disciple of the outer sect, Wang Tengfei? Brother Wang? Meng Hao turned his head and looked in the direction of the Black Mountain. His face was innocent and puzzled. Who stole Brother Wang's opportunity? TSK, this really shouldn't have happened. He sighed and shook his head, as if this matter had nothing to do with him. Meng Hao picked up a chess piece and slammed it down on the chessboard. Kill. Brother Li, your dragon is in danger. Brother Meng's chess skills are extraordinary. Unfortunately, how could I not have a backup plan? Li Yu picked up a chess piece and slammed it down. He broke out of the encirclement and broke through Meng Hao's blockade. Back and forth, pieces were placed one after another. Meng Hao was completely immersed in the chessboard. He didn't remember anything else. Li Yu. Was it you? Was it you? At this time, Wang Tengfei shot forward on a beam of light, roaring madly. He landed on the stone platform, his face ferocious. He pointed at Li Yu and howled with grief and indignation. Li Yu, did you steal my opportunity? Are you the one who stole my treasure? Are you the one who snatched my inheritance? Prince Wang, you've gone too far. Li Yu raised his head and frowned at Wang Tengfei. This is the second time you've come knocking on my door. Don't tell me you think I, Li Yu, have no temper? If it wasn't you, then who? In the entire Reliance sect, who else could have found the place where the flying rain dragon perished? Who else could have stolen my opportunity without me noticing? Wang Tengfei was furious. His face twisted with rage. A trifling flying rain dragon? You're nothing to me. Li Yu shook his head. The sovereign of the skies and the Tao of riding the wind do have some merit. But that's not the path I've chosen. My Tao of all living things breeding is not the use of the wind. Huh? Don't tell me it really wasn't you? When Wang Tengfei heard the words, Tao of all living things breeding, he thought back to the power Li Yu had displayed when they'd clashed fingers. You're chasing after the flying rain dragon. Don't tell me you don't even have a magical item to detect auras? Won't you understand once you activate your Dharma artifact? Li Yu waved his hand dismissively. Go find it yourself. Don't waste my time. Detect auras? That's right. Detect auras. Wang Tengfei hurriedly produced an octagonal silver disc from his bag of holding. He breathed out a mouthful of vital energy to activate the disc. Dots of light appeared on the disc array. Each dot of light represented a person. When Meng Hao saw the disc, his hand that was holding the chess piece trembled slightly. Brother Meng, my methods aren't ordinary. You're going to lose this game. Li Yu chuckled, picked up a piece, and placed it down. Brother Li's methods are indeed extraordinary. He ignored Wang Tingfei's actions and focused on the game of Go. This is Shangguanxiu. This is me. This is also not him. The motes of light on the disk were eliminated one by one. In the end, there was only one mote of light left. It was a blood-red mote of light. It's definitely him. Let's see who dares to steal my good fortune. Wang Tingfei's face was ferocious. He waved his hand and sent out another stream of spiritual energy to investigate the origin of the blood-red mote of light. Boom! With a loud explosion, the entire disk shattered. An enormous force exploded out, sending Wang Tingfei flying back several dozen meters. With a puff, he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Who is this? Wang Tingfei's face was pale. Just detecting auras was enough to send me flying. How could this person's cultivation be so terrifying? Patriarch Blood Demon, you're the perfect scapegoat. This isn't I trying to trick you. Who told you to just happen to appear here? Li Yu placed a piece down on the chessboard, laughing strangely in his heart. Chapter 1184. I'm ashamed. Sorry to disturb you, Brother Li. Wang Tingfei took a deep breath, clasped hands and bowed to Li Yu, and then hurried off. As far as Wang Tingfei was concerned, the blood-colored dot of light represented the terrifying person who had taken the flying rain dragon's precious treasure. Of course, it had nothing to do with Li Yu. Wang Tingfei apologized to Li Yu and then left, completely ignoring Meng Hao. Wang Tingfei had come from an extraordinary background and was naturally arrogant. He didn't even care about Meng Hao, who had come from a low-level background. Actually, Li Yu sighed inwardly. Wang Tingfei, you look down on him. I'm afraid that's the main reason for your tragic fate. Meng Hao's identity was not simple at all. In the 9th Mountain and Sea, he was the third son of the first wife of the Fang clan, the second great clan that could contend with the Lord of the Mountains and Seas, the Ji clan. Now that I think about it, this Meng Hao guy is actually pretty miserable. Li Yu looked at Meng Hao, who was playing chess with his chess pieces, and shook his head. Meng Hao had screwed over countless people, only to find that he had been screwed over by Shui Donglu, and then by all heaven. He had screwed over his parents, his wife, and all of his friends and family. They had all died, then been resurrected, and then died again. Because of the curse of all heaven, it wasn't just his friends and family who had died. Almost everyone he knew was dead. Young man, said Meng Hao, since you and I are kindred spirits, I'll naturally help you out. Li Yu smiled, then picked up a Go piece and placed it on the Go board. Brother Meng, you've lost. Brother Li's skill is superior. I concede. Meng Hao smiled and shook his head. He put down the Go piece and stood up, then bowed to Li Yu. Many thanks for just now, Brother Li. Because of Li Yu's intervention, Wang Tingfei hadn't realized that Meng Hao was the one who had stolen his good fortune and had saved Meng Hao some trouble. No need to be so polite. Come on, let's go into the Immortal's Cave and see what you got. Li Yu waved his hand, putting away the Go board, and then led Meng Hao into the Immortal's Cave. Everything I got is here. However, I'm not too sure about their origins. Brother Li, please give me some pointers. Meng Hao pulled out a violet gold bag of holding from his robe, as well as a dark green wooden sword and a fist-sized demonic core. He handed them over to Li Yu. Not bad, these things are very good. Li Yu picked up the fist-sized Yao core and nodded with a smile. This is the Yao core of the winged dragon. Although the loss of spiritual energy was severe, its essence was extraordinary. Once you absorb it, you'll be able to obtain Rain Dragon's wind-riding divine ability. Putting down the monster core, Li Yu picked up the dark green wooden sword and observed it for a while. This is the immortal slaughtering sword. Li Yu flicked the wooden sword with his finger and shook his head with a smile. Don't be fooled by its name. In fact, it's not a real weapon. It's a sealing magic sword. Stabbing a sword into the enemy's body is like a maggot in a tarsal bone, causing the enemy's spiritual energy to continuously dissipate and their cultivation to continuously decrease. It can be considered as a kind of torture. Ah, I thought that this sword was the most precious magical treasure. Turns out it's not that useful. Meng Hao originally had high hopes for this sword, but after hearing Li Yu's explanation, he suddenly felt a wave of disappointment. It's not that useless. At least in the foundation establishment stage of qi condensation, this sword can be used as a weapon, and its power is even stronger than ordinary magical items. Li Yu smiled as he put down the wooden sword and picked up the violet gold bag of holding. This bag of holding is also extraordinary. This should be a bag of the cosmos. It has more space than ordinary bags of holding, and is also more stable. As Li Yu explained, spiritual energy flowed out from his fingertips, and he opened the bag of holding. There are quite a few good things inside. With a wave of his hand, Li Yu took out a pile of spirit stones from the bag of holding. Each of the fist-sized spirit stones glittered with spiritual light. There were at least 3,000 of them. Spirit stones? When Meng Hao saw that the bag of holding was filled with spirit stones, he felt a wave of disappointment. Although spirit stones weren't bad, they weren't as valuable as the legacy of an expert or magical item he had expected. Don't underestimate them. These are supreme-grade spirit stones. With a wave of his hand, Li Yu grabbed one of the spirit stones. He pointed at it and said, "One supreme-grade spirit stone is equivalent to 10,000 high-grade spirit stones. The spirit stones given out by the Reliance sect are all low-grade spirit stones. Do the math and you'll know how much these things are worth. One supreme-grade spirit stone is equivalent to 10,000 high-grade spirit stones. One high-grade spirit stone is equivalent to 10,000 mid-grade spirit stones. One mid-grade spirit stone is equivalent to 10,000 low-grade spirit stones. This. Meng Hao's eyes shone. I'm rich. If I'm not careful, I'll have a net worth of hundreds of millions. If I casually took out a supreme-grade spirit stone, I would have more wealth than the entire Reliance sect. My wealth is comparable to that of a nation. With these spirit stones, if you want to use the copper mirror to duplicate medicinal pills and magical items, it'll be much more convenient." Li Yu waved his hand, collecting the spirit stones, the flying rain-dragon's Niden, and the wooden sword into the bag of holding. Then he handed it over to Meng Hao. Brother Li, why don't you take some too?" Li Yu hadn't taken any of the spoils from last time. This time, Li Yu didn't want any either. Meng Hao felt a bit embarrassed. "Alright, I'll take a few spirit stones." Li Yu suddenly remembered that he had sealed his cultivation base. He was no longer the peerless person he used to be, who could use the Tao of matter to create whatever he wanted. How could he not spend money when he entered the world to practice cultivation and gain insight into life? Li Yu put away 10 supreme-grade spirit stones, then handed the bag of holding back to Meng Hao. "I don't need too many. These should be enough." "Little brother is ashamed." Meng Hao accepted the bag of holding with an embarrassed smile. He clasped hands and bowed to Li Yu. Little brother will take his leave now. There was still the flying rain-dragon's Niden to absorb, as well as the other demonic cores from the Black Mountain. Meng Hao hurried out of the Immortal's cave and returned to his own, where he once again began to practice cultivation. Meng Hao went back to absorb the demonic cores. By now, Fatty should be here, right? Li Yu walked out of the Immortal's cave and sat down at the stone table. He leisurely brewed a pot of tea. Fatty Li Fugue had been in the outer sect for a few days now. Presumably, he had learned a lot about the rules of the Reliance sect, especially the Pill Distribution Day rule. This month's Pill Distribution Day was approaching. Fatty was greedy for life and afraid of death, so he would definitely come to ask for help. Meng Hao was in secluded meditation, so Fatty had no choice but to come to Li Yu. Well then, Li Yu smiled as he lifted his teacup. I'll borrow Fatty's hand to swindle him. Brother Yu, save me! Save me! Sure enough, not long after, the little Fatty ran over with a face full of panic, shouting for help all the way. So he came. Li Yu smiled faintly. This time, let's settle the old and new debts together. Shangguan Xiu had swindled Li Yu once, and Ma Changhe from the Treasure Pavilion had also swindled Li Yu once. Big Boss Li was a broad-minded person. Surely he wouldn't seek revenge, right? Chapter 1185. Brother Yu, give me a hand. Little Fatty was sweating profusely. His face was pale and he was sobbing. He ran to Li Yu and looked at Li Yu anxiously. What's wrong? Li Yu put down his teacup and smiled at the pale-faced Li Fugue. Knowing the answer, he asked, What happened? Brother Yu, the Reliance sect is not a place for people. Not to mention the killing and robbery, the sect's pill distribution day is so dangerous. The little Fatty bowed to Li Yu for a while. Brother Yu, save me? The pill distribution day is in 3 days. Those poor and crazy people will definitely try to steal it. Even if they don't kill me out of respect for you and Brother Hao. I will also be bullied badly. However, Li Yu suddenly saw a trace of craftiness in little Fatty's eyes. Damn! This little Fatty, don't tell me. Li Yu blinked and immediately thought of little Fatty's plan. In addition to being afraid of death, little Fatty was also greedy for money. He came to ask for help, not only to find a protective talisman, but also to imitate Li Yu and Meng Hao and make a fortune on the pill distribution day. I'm not afraid of you thinking too much, I'm afraid you don't have any ideas. Li Yu laughed inwardly. If little Fatty had ideas, it would be easier for Li Yu to trick him. Yes, there is still some danger. Following Li Fugue's words, Li Yu nodded and said, Meng Hao and I have offended the outer sect people. They don't dare to look for us, but it's not impossible for them to vent their anger on you. This pill distribution day is indeed dangerous for you. How about this? I'll lend you a magic treasure to protect yourself. As he spoke, Li Yu took out the Emperor Yu bell from his waist and handed it over to little Fatty. Although the Emperor Yu's bell also had its power sealed and no longer had the power to destroy the heavens and earth, but even without the power, with the intrinsic quality of the Emperor Yu's bell, it was enough for the little Fatty to run amok. On the pill distribution day, if a mere qi condensation stage cultivator could break the defense of the Emperor Yu's bell, then Li Yu wouldn't be able to stay in the sect. Magic treasure? Little Fatty looked at the rusty copper bell in his hand, tears almost falling. Brother Yu, even if you want me to die, I won't say a word. But isn't it too unkind of you to send me away with this broken thing? Idiot, a divine item concealment. Li Yu angrily glared at Li Fugue. Why don't you use your spiritual power to stimulate it? Why don't you try? Divine item concealment. Little Fatty blinked his eyes and channeled his spirit energy into the copper bell skeptically. The copper bell let out a ringing sound and instantly expanded. It turned into a giant bell that enveloped the little Fatty and protected him tightly. It is indeed a treasure. It is indeed a treasure. Seeing this, little Fatty was unable to contain his joy. There's something even more powerful. Li Yu smiled and waved his hand. A huge rock flew up and smashed towards little Fatty. Brother Yu! Little Fatty screamed and was about to dodge when he found that the huge rock smashed onto the copper bell. The copper bell didn't even shake, but the huge rock was shattered into dust. Good treasure! Good treasure! Thank you, Brother Yu! Thank you, Brother Yu! Little Fatty retracted his spiritual power and the copper bell shrank, turning into an inch-long small bell, and landed in little Fatty's hand. Brother Yu, with this treasure of yours protecting me, I will have no worries in this pill distribution assembly. Thank you, Brother Yu. I won't disturb you anymore. Putting away the bronze bell, little Fatty ran out happily. Ha ha! Little Fatty, you have to perform well for me. Li Yu looked at little Fatty's departing figure and smiled as he raised his teacup. 3 days later, pill distribution day arrived. The melodious sound of the bell rang, and a group of outer sect disciples rushed to the outer sect square. The one presiding over the pill distribution ceremony this time was still that Shangguan Xiu. Today is pill distribution day again. Seeing the outer sect disciples gathered together and the sect flourishing, this old man feels gratified. Shangguan Xiu swept a glance at the people below the stage, but did not see Li Yu and Meng Hao. This made Shangguan Xiu's eyes flash with a trace of gloominess. Those 2 brats from last time really didn't know what was good for them. Using this old man's name, they caused a ruckus in the outer sect grand competition and earned a lot. But they didn't know how to be filial to their elders. They really deserved to die. Not seeing Li Yu and Meng Hao, Shangguan Xiu had no one to vent his anger on. And this little Fatty. I heard that he has a close relationship with those 2 brats? Humph, just nice to use you to establish my authority and teach those 2 brats a lesson. Shangguan Xiu sneered in his heart. Then, after giving out the monthly medicinal pills and spirit stones, he took out a dry spirit pill. This is a dry spirit pill. Shangguan Xiu extended his hand and held up the medicinal pill, displaying it in front of everyone. His face revealed a mocking smile. This seat saw that another newcomer was promoted to the outer sect this month, and was delighted. I'll bestow this medicinal pill to you. With a flick of his finger, the dry spirit pill landed in little Fatty's hand. I don't believe that you can still escape. Shangguan Xiu sneered in his heart. Little Fatty, who asked you to be friends with those 2 brats? Even if you don't die this time, you'll lose a layer of skin. As the dry spirit pill landed in little Fatty's hand, the eyes of all the outer sect disciples turned green. Preposterous! The last time they were scammed by Li Yu and Meng Hao, everyone went bankrupt and empty-handed. This time, the dry spirit pill actually landed in the hands of little Fatty, who was related to them? Since you dare to participate in the pill distribution ceremony, then don't blame us for snatching it. Even if it's related to Li Yu and Meng Hao, as long as we don't kill him, it's no big deal. The number 1 person in the outer sect is still senior brother Wang Tengfei. Even if we don't dare to offend Li Yu and Meng Hao, why should we be afraid of this little Fatty? Hence, everyone made up their minds to snatch all of little Fatty's pills to vent their frustrations. Snatch it. The dry spirit pill is mine. A group of outer sect disciples roared and charged towards little Fatty. Don't come over. Little Fatty had never seen such a scene before. Even with the Dharma treasure given by Li Yu, his face was pale with fright. Bam! An outer sect disciple who was charging at the front kicked little Fatty's body, causing him to cry out in pain. Damn it! I'll fight it out with you! Little Fatty roared and waved his hand to release the Emperor Yu bell, given to him by Li Yu. With a wung sound, the huge copper bell protected the little Fatty tightly. Bam! Bam! Everyone's attacks landed on the copper bell and were shocked by the rebounding force until they vomited blood. He's actually relying on the might of a Dharma treasure? Don't tell me we don't have Dharma treasures? Originally, they wanted to use their fists and legs to teach little Fatty a lesson, but were injured by little Fatty's copper bell. This made the group of outer sect disciples so angry that their eyes turned red. Kill. In their rage, everyone no longer cared about little Fatty's relationship with Li Yu and released their Dharma treasures one by one and smashed towards little Fatty. Bam bam bam! One by one, the Dharma treasures hit the copper bell and then, they were shattered by the copper bell. My Dharma treasure! That copper bell is a treasure, snatch it! The scene was chaotic. Brother Yu's Dharma treasure is actually so useful? Ha 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 ha! I'm rich! I'm rich! Little Fatty laughed loudly and pointed at the crowd. He grinned, revealing a mouthful of white spirit teeth. This is robbery. Hand over all your spirit stones, Dharma treasures and Dharma treasures. With the copper bell, little Fatty went on a rampage and no one was his match. Shattering one Dharma treasure after another and snatching one storage bag after another, little Fatty laughed wildly and was extremely majestic. Chapter 1186. Ha 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 ha. I'm invincible. With the bronze bell on his head, little Fatty rampaged all the way. Those who were hit by him had their Dharma artifacts shattered and fell to the ground vomiting blood. In less than an hour, little Fatty swept through the outer sect and knocked down all the outer sect disciples who came to participate in the pill-releasing ceremony one by one. Elixirs, Dharma artifacts, spirit stones, all fell into little Fatty's pocket. Come on! Get up and fight again! With the bronze bell on his head, little Fatty stood with his hands on his hips and his head held high. Outer sect disciples fell all around him. Like a general returning victorious, his prestige was unparalleled. There's actually such a treasure? Seeing this scene, Shangguan Xiu's face was ice-cold. Staring at the bronze bell on little Fatty's head, his eyes revealed a look of greed. Bastard, is this old man's Dharma treasure for you to bully your fellow sect members? As this old man's personal disciple, how dare you act so wantonly? This old man is taking back this Dharma treasure. Rolling his eyes, Shangguan Xiu immediately thought of a dignified reason, then he reached out and grabbed, sucking the bronze bell on Li Fugui's head into his hand. Unfilial disciple, why aren't you scramming back for this old man? Shangguan Xiu pointed at little Fatty and roared. Then, with a wave of his sleeves, he soared into the sky and disappeared in an instant. IF*CK. Little Fatty was stunned by Shangguan Xiu's lecture and had yet to recover his senses. It was only until Shangguan Xiu ran away that he understood. He was robbed. Robbed by an elder of the sect. It's over. It's over. How do I explain this to Big Brother Yu? Little Fatty cried miserably and wailed, only feeling that the sky was about to collapse. Liu lent him the Dharma treasure to defend himself, then he used the Dharma treasure to show off and was extremely flamboyant. In the end, Shangguan Xiu, this shameless old man, found the title of personal disciple and snatched it away. A master taking back the Dharma treasure bestowed to his disciple was simply a matter of course. There was no place to cry to. There was no place to reason. What should I do? Little Fatty wailed and staggered out of the outer sanctum square. Only a group of outer sect disciples were left looking at each other. Little Fatty is Elder Shangguan's personal disciple? F*CKU. With such a background, why are you still pretending to be low-key? Isn't this cheating? Liu, Meng Hao, Li Fugui, they're all trash. The group of outer sect disciples were so angry that they gritted their teeth and jumped up to curse. Then they wailed again. My magic tool was borrowed from senior brother Ma of the treasure pavilion. Now, the magic treasure is broken. Mine too. Me too. The group of outer court disciples realized that they were clean again. Even the Dharma artifacts that were rented from the treasure pavilion were either broken or snatched by little Fatty. Now, how was he going to explain this to senior brother Ma? Explain my ass. I don't have any money, but I do have a life. Yes. In any case, we're already so poor that we can't even afford to eat. I'm not going to pay you back. Exactly. I'm not returning it. Not long after, Ma Changhe, the deacon disciple of the treasure pavilion, heard the news and collapsed to the ground. He's dead. He was dead meat. They had lost over 100 of their sect's artifacts. I can't even complete the task. I'm dead meat. Ma Changhe was sweating all over, his face pale. Thinking back to Liu, who had suggested this loan plan, Ma Changhe understood. What a scam. This is too much of a scam. However, he still couldn't find Liu for this matter. It was all because of his own greed that this matter of renting a magic tool happened. Scammer. He looks like a weak scholar, but he's full of evil tricks. Scammer. Ma Changha howled to the sky. I've been scammed so badly and lost over 100 magic tools. I'll never be able to repay my debt to the sect in this lifetime. On the other side, little fatty Li Fugue was also howling. What do I do? What do I do? How am I going to explain this to Brother Yu? My magic tool was stolen by that old bastard Shangguan Xiu. How am I going to explain this? With a mournful face, little fatty was out of his wits. His eyes were lifeless as he dejectedly climbed up the Reliance sect's southern peak to stand in front of Li Yu. Brother Yu, Li Fugue howled as if he had just lost a loved one. With a plop, he fell to his knees in front of Li Yu. Brother, please beat me to death. I deserve to die. I deserve to die. That's enough. Li Yu rolled his eyes. He saw through Li Fugue's pretentious act at a glance. Pretending to be a dead pig, wasn't it just to gain sympathy and ask for forgiveness? Who are you trying to show off your dead pig face to? Li Yu put down the teacup in his hand and glanced at Li Fugue. Tell me, what kind of trouble did you get into this time? Brother, the magic tool you gave me was stolen. It was stolen by that old bastard Shangguan Xiu. Little fatty howled, tears streaming down his face. His sorrowful appearance was as if he was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. It was extremely pitiful. If one wasn't familiar with Li Fugue's nature, anyone who saw him would feel sympathy for this miserable little fatty. You look like a pig, but your heart is clear. Li Yu's mouth fiercely twitched a few times, expressing his admiration for Li Fugue's innate skills as an actor. That's enough. Li Yu waved his hand. Shangguan Xiu took away the magic tool. You can't resist. I will deal with this matter, you don't have to worry about it. Thank you, brother, for your magnanimity. Li Fugue quickly took out the storage bag and handed it to Li Yu. Brother, I still have some things here. Although it's not as good as the bronze bell, it's still a token of my appreciation. That's enough. This matter is none of your business. You don't have to worry about it. Li Yu waved his hand, but his heart gave birth to a smile. With Li Yu's wisdom, how could he not think that Li Fugue would have his magic tool snatched away by Shangguan Xiu? All of this was in Li Yu's plan. Brother, then, I'll take my leave. Li Fugue secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He finally got through this hurdle. After bidding farewell to Li Yu, Li Fugue hurriedly left. My Emperor Yu Bell is in Shangguan Xiu's hands? I hope Shangguan Xiu won't be cheated too miserably. Li Yu secretly laughed. Emperor Yu Bell, this magic tool, unless Li Yu doesn't want it, otherwise, who can take it? Sending the Emperor Yu Bell to Shangguan Xiu's hands is naturally another big trap. Shangguan Xiu, this person, is actually a boy who gives out treasures. Li Yu picked up the teacup and took a sip. The smile on his face was very bright. Shangguan Xiu is ambitious and wants to build a perfect foundation. He obtained a method to advance from a flawless foundation to a perfect foundation. This poor Taoist is also very interested in this method. With Li Yu's identity, robbery or something is really too unskilled. Cheating people is Li Yu's specialty. Emperor Yu Bell is not so easy to get. If I don't cheat you until you lose your family's fortune, if I don't cheat you until you're half dead, how can I show my methods? As the most awesome cheat in the universe, Big Boss Li has enough confidence in his cheating method. That's how the pit is dug. You're the one who jumped into the pit. I am righteous and clean. I definitely won't harm anyone. However, the sins of the heavens can be forgiven. The evils brought on by oneself are the hardest to bear. Li Yu picked up the teacup and drank it in one gulp, then leisurely knocked on the table. Cheating people, it's that simple. Recommended The Leisurely Life of Bird Grandpa. Have you seen a reborn bird? Chapter 1187. Hee, I've earned a treasure today. Shangguan Xiu returned to his abode, and looked at the rusty copper bell in his hand. His eyes were shining with joy. I didn't expect Li Fugui to have such a treasure. Spiritual light surged as Shangguan Xiu poured his spiritual energy into the copper bell and began to refine it. With the influx of spiritual energy, a 9-layered and extremely complicated array appeared in front of Shangguan Xiu. As spiritual energy poured into the array at the bottom, a mysterious and unfathomable, vast and majestic aura hit him in the face. It really is a treasure. It really is a treasure. With my current realm, I can't even completely refine the array in this magic treasure. It really is a peerless treasure. Feeling the vast aura from the array, Shangguan Xiu was so excited that his whole body trembled. To be able to deliver such a treasure to me, this old man is really lucky. Constantly driving spiritual energy and refining the array at the bottom, when Shangguan Xiu's spiritual energy was almost exhausted, the array at the bottom was finally refined. Buzz, with a trembling sound, the copper bell in his hand flew into the air, bursting with endless brilliance. The mottled rust had already faded away, and the glittering purple-gold bell body revealed a sparkling and translucent color in the brilliance, looking extraordinary and magical. On the purple-gold bell, the upper half of the outer wall was like a vast starry sky. Stars shone on the outer wall of the copper bell, like a river of stars flowing. On the lower half of the outer wall, wind, clouds, thunder, lightning, ice, frost, rain, and snow, showing the alternation of the 4 seasons and the flow of time and space. On the inner wall of the copper bell, however, was another scene. Mountains towered and rivers surged, showing the scene of a vast earth. Golden dragons soared in the sky, phoenixes soared, plants withered and flourished, all living things grew, and all living things reincarnated, revealing endless mysteries. What kind of treasure is this? Seeing the mysterious scene on the copper bell, Shangguan Xiu's eyes widened and his whole body trembled with joy. Showing such a scene of heaven and earth, describing the principles of heaven and earth, this bell, perhaps it was originally called the Heaven and Earth Bell? With a wave of his hand, the copper bell converged the sky full of strange phenomena and turned into a small purple-gold bell that fell into Shangguan Xiu's hand. It is indeed the Heaven and Earth Bell. There is indeed a universe within it. When his divine sense touched it, Shangguan Xiu discovered that there was a vast space inside the copper bell, as if it was a huge world. What kind of almighty being is able to refine such a supreme treasure? What an opportunity! This is a peerless opportunity. No wonder the little fatty was able to run amok in the outer sect with the help of this copper bell, and was unstoppable. Even if little fatty could not refine such a supreme treasure, as long as he used a little bit of his power, it was not something that ordinary cultivators could withstand. It contained a world within. Whether it was storing items or trapping people, it was extremely convenient. Moreover, the defensive power of the copper bell was simply unbelievably strong. In order to break through the defense of the copper bell, unless one could shatter the universe in one strike, no matter how powerful one's strength was, it would be absorbed and annihilated by the universe contained within the copper bell. With this bell in hand, even if I've only refined the first layer of restrictions, I'll be able to do as I please in the state of Zhao. If his cultivation improved in the future and he completely refined the 9 layers of restrictions on the copper bell, then how powerful would the power of the copper bell be? With a single strike, the universe would be destroyed. That would truly be a divine might that could destroy the world. Such a supreme opportunity caused Shangguan Xiu to tremble with excitement. He was so excited that his blood rushed to his head, and he wanted to scream crazily. Only after suppressing the excitement in his heart did Shangguan Xiu's agitated emotions calm down slightly. With such a supreme treasure containing the universe in hand, why would I need a storage bag? The universe bell is more than 1,000,000 times stronger than a storage bag. It contained the universe within and possessed a vast space. Even if countless mountains were moved in, they would not be able to fill even a 10,000th of the space. Without hesitation, Shangguan Xiu hurriedly stored all the treasures in his storage bag and his entire fortune into the universe within of the copper bell. It could be used for defense, trapping and killing enemies, and could even be used for storage. With such a supreme treasure in hand, why would Shangguan Xiu be interested in something as lowly as a storage bag? This is only the first layer of restrictions. I must raise my cultivation as soon as possible and refine the 9 layers of restrictions on the copper bell as soon as possible. By then, I'll be invincible. Shangguan Xiu clenched his fists tightly, and his face flushed with excitement. At this time, Li Yu was also very happy. The Emperor Yu Bell is mine. You stored all your possessions in the space within the Emperor Yu Bell. Isn't that the same as giving it to me? Sitting leisurely by the stone table, Li Yu stretched out his hand, and an ancient jade slip that Li Yu had stored in the Emperor Yu Bell silently fell into Li Yu's hand. Is this the perfect foundation method that Shangguan Xiu obtained? Shangguan Xiu is really a good person. Picking up the ancient jade slip, Li Yu released his divine sense. With just a sweep, he memorized all the information in the jade slip. Perfect foundation, perfect Jin Dan, so that's how it is. Li Yu waved his hand and threw the jade slip back. Settling his mind, he began to decipher the perfect foundation method and perfect Jin Dan method in the jade slip. The art of external elixir condenses the medicinal power of plant. Thus, during the foundation building and core formation stage, the medicinal power of the external elixir can be used to make up for the deficiency of the heavens and achieve a perfect impregnable body. Li Yu carefully analyzed it and nodded with a smile. So that's how it is. This method is indeed useful. Although his cultivation was sealed, Li Yu's understanding and knowledge of cultivation were not sealed. Looking at the perfect method, Li Yu quickly understood the essence of it and grasped the principle. I understand the essence of the perfect method. In fact, it doesn't necessarily need elixirs. It can be talismans, arrays, magical treasures, or spiritual objects. There are many ways. As long as during the foundation building and core formation stage, he could use external objects to make up for his body and achieve a perfect impregnable body. Now that Shangguan Xiu has given me the perfect method, all that's left is to be promoted to the inner sect and get the sublime spirit scripture. Li Yu laughed. For now, he had no intention of taking back the Emperor Yu's bell. After all, he hadn't finished conning Shangguan Xiu. It was too early to take it back. Brotherly! By this time, Meng Hao had finished refining the demonic core and emerged from secluded meditation. A cool breeze whistled through the air as Meng Hao rode the wind to land in front of Li Yu. Brotherly, the Tao of the Imperial Wind is truly miraculous. Meng Hao stretched out his hand, and a cool breeze began to swirl around his fingertips. I'm afraid the Imperial Wind art isn't the only good thing about you, right? Li Yu looked him over and saw the faint demonic qi emanating from Meng Hao. He shook his head inwardly. This is fate. Your path has long since been arranged by all heaven. You are a demon. Brother Li's discerning eyes are correct. Meng Hao dispersed the cool breeze from his fingertips and nodded with a smile. After absorbing the demonic core, my body is much stronger than before. Furthermore, the core of the flying rain dragon's demonic core has merged into my sea of qi in my dantian. This matter, is there anything wrong with it? God, immortal, devil, ghost, demon. In the end, they are all essentially the same. There is nothing wrong with the demonic core entering the body. Li Yu smiled and shook his head. Your future is that of a demon. Having a demonic core in your body couldn't be more appropriate. Chapter 1188. If there's nothing wrong, then I'm relieved. Meng Hao knew that Li Yu had an extraordinary background, and trusted his judgment. If Li Yu said there was nothing wrong, then there was nothing wrong. You came out of seclusion at just the right time. At the beginning of next month, the sect will hold an inner sect disciple trial by fire. Becoming an inner sect disciple is very important to you. Li Yu reminded him. Don't worry. Li Yu was well aware of the reason for the early start of the inner sect trial by fire. Wang Tengfei had lost the legacy of the flying rain dragon, so he didn't want to waste any more time in the Reliance sect. He wanted to acquire the Sublime Spirit Scripture as soon as possible. How many spots are there for the inner sect trial by fire? Meng Hao looked at Li Yu, feeling a bit awkward. He knew exactly what Li Yu's goal was. Li Yu had come to the Reliance sect to become an inner sect disciple and acquire the Sublime Spirit Scripture. If there was only one spot for the inner sect, then Meng Hao would have to compete with Li Yu for it. If he didn't compete, he would be letting himself down. If he fought, he would be letting Li Yu down. Don't worry, I won't compete with you. Li Yu could tell what Meng Hao was thinking. He smiled and explained, one way to become an inner sect disciple is to pass the trial by fire at the 6th level of qi condensation. The other way is to become an inner sect disciple at the 7th level of qi condensation. He extended a finger, and a spiritual light began to swirl around it. Spiritual power surged out like a raging tide. Brother Li, you're already at the 7th level? Seeing Li Yu's spiritual power, Meng Hao's jaw dropped, and his face filled with shock. The difference between the 6th and 7th levels of qi condensation was only one level. However, the 6th level was the middle stage of qi condensation, while the 7th was the late stage. The difference of one level was like the difference between heaven and earth. There was a huge barrier between the 6th and 7th levels of qi condensation. Many cultivators would spend their entire lives stuck at this bottleneck, unable to reach the 7th level. Even Wang Tengfei had been stuck at the 6th level of qi condensation for many years and had yet to make a breakthrough. Of all the disciples in the Reliance sect, only Su Qing and Chen Fan had reached the 7th level of qi condensation. They were the only two inner sect disciples. But now, Li Yu had silently reached the 7th level of qi condensation? How long has it been? In such a short period of time, Li Yu had advanced from the 6th level of qi condensation to the 7th? Could it be that he didn't have any bottlenecks at all? In fact, Li Yu really didn't have any bottlenecks. If it weren't for the inconvenience of cultivating the Sublime Spirit Scripture, Li Yu would have been able to complete the qi condensation stage and reach the foundation establishment stage easily. So, my competitor is Wang Tengfei? Li Yu didn't need to participate in the inner sect trials to be promoted to an inner sect disciple. In this inner sect trials, Meng Hao's only opponent was Wang Tengfei. In fact, this time's inner disciple trials was opened for Wang Tengfei. There was only one spot to be promoted to the inner sect. Only by defeating him will you be promoted to the inner sect. Li Yu looked at Meng Hao and smiled. Your cultivation base is about the same as Wang Tengfei's. However, Wang Tengfei comes from a famous house, and his family's unique techniques are no small matter. It won't be easy to defeat him. I won't give up. Meng Hao clenched his fists tightly, his fighting spirit soaring. My goal is to be promoted to the inner sect and acquire the Sublime Spirit Scripture. I definitely won't give up. Since you're so determined, then I'll lend you a hand. Li Yu smiled and nodded. He waved his hand, and a jade slip flew out and landed in Meng Hao's hand. This is a wind-type divine ability called the Samadhi Godly Wind. It is very compatible with the Flying Rain Dragon's Tao of Imperial Wind. With the Flying Rain Dragon's Niden in your body, you should be able to unleash the full power of this divine ability. Samadhi Godly Wind. Meng Hao picked up the jade slip and examined it with his divine sense. He felt an invisible gale sweep through him, as if all living things in heaven and earth would be annihilated by it. Invisible breeze soared. Shadowless wind escape. Formless astral wind magic. In addition to the samadhi godly wind divine ability, there were 3 other divine abilities derived from the samadhi godly wind. This samadhi celestial wind was a peerless divine ability. Brotherly, such a divine ability, Although Meng Hao's cultivation base was low, and his knowledge was shallow, he knew that the samadhi godly wind was an incredible and powerful divine ability. To be able to casually give away such a powerful divine ability, brotherly. Where exactly did he come from? You and I hit it off, so there's no need to be so formal. Since I'm giving it to you, you can take it without worry. Li Yu smiled and waved his hand. The samadhi godly wind came from the world of extermination. Li Yu wanted to see just how powerful the divine ability would be in the hands of a demon sovereign like Meng Hao. Many thanks, Brother Li. Meng Hao bowed deeply and put away the samadhi godly wind jade slip. After bidding farewell, he went back into secluded meditation to practice the samadhi godly wind divine ability. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, the inner sect trial by fire had begun. Elder Brother Wang is mighty. Elder Brother Wang truly deserves his place in the inner sect trial by fire. When the conditions are right, success will follow. Elder Brother Wang is the #1 disciple in the outer sect. I'm afraid no one will dare to compete with him in the inner sect trial by fire. In the outer sect encampment of the Reliance sect, a high platform rose into the air. Wang Tengfei stood on the platform, his hands clasped behind his back. He looked like a towering mountain in the middle of an abyss. The purpose of the inner sect trial by fire was for all outer sect disciples who met the requirements to fight on the platform. The final victor would be promoted to the inner sect. However, in this inner sect trial by fire, other than Wang Tengfei, none of the other outer sect disciples were allowed on the platform. Excluding Li Yu and Meng Hao, no one else in the outer sect of the Reliance sect had reached the 6th level of qi condensation, except for Wang Tengfei. Even though the inner sect trial by fire did not prohibit disciples below the 6th level of qi condensation from challenging others, Wang Tengfei was the #1 disciple in the outer sect. No one was a match for him. Now that Wang Tengfei had stepped onto the platform, there were no competitors. Elder Ouyang. Wang Tengfei clasped his hands in salute to Elder Ouyang, who was in charge of the inner sect trial. He smiled and said, "Elder, since no one wants to challenge me." "Who said no one wants to challenge me?" At this time, a figure flew over with the wind and landed on the high platform. "That's Meng Hao? He wants to challenge Elder Brother Wang?" Seeing Meng Hao land on the platform, the crowd of outer sect disciples had complicated expressions on their faces. "Elder Brother Wang, help us teach this swindler who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth a lesson." Meng Hao's reputation as a swindler in the outer sect caused the crowd of outer sect disciples to gnash their teeth in hatred. You dare to challenge me?" Wang Tengfei looked at Meng Hao, his pupils constricting. "If it were brotherly, I might have taken it seriously. But you? I'll show you what the difference between us is." "The difference between us is reflected in your mouth?" Meng Hao laughed and shook his head. "If that's the case, then I really can't compare to you." "Very good. You've successfully infuriated me." Wang Tengfei's face grew cold. He slowly lifted his hand, and an icy, deathly aura began to surge out. A great battle was about to break out. Chapter 1189. Make your move. Otherwise, you won't even have the chance to make your move. Wang Tengfei's finger emitted a cold, deathly aura that caused people's hearts to palpitate. Brother Li warned me earlier. This Wang Tengfei really does have an extraordinary background. Seeing the deathly aura around Wang Tengfei's finger, Meng Hao's expression turned serious. He took a deep breath. Then, let's fight. With a wave of his hand, rays of light shot out from his bag of holding. A total of 72 flying swords whistled through the air above Meng Hao's head, transforming into an unending rain of swords that slashed down toward Wang Tengfei. Insignificant skill. Wang Tengfei disdainfully curled his lip. He extended his finger toward the rain of swords. Finger of death. With a point of his finger, a cold, deathly aura rushed out. Heaven and earth returned to ruins, all living things returned to silence. Under the attack of this cold, deathly aura, the rain of swords that Meng Hao had released exploded into countless fragments that fell to the ground. Do you see? This is the difference between us. Wang Tengfei laughed coldly at Meng Hao. In my eyes, you are nothing but an ant. If you hadn't come up to challenge me, a lowly person like you wouldn't even have the chance to meet me. And lowly? Originally, Meng Hao only wanted to compete for the qualifications to enter the inner sect, so he didn't have any ill feelings toward Wang Tengfei. Now that he heard Wang Tengfei's insults, Meng Hao's heart was filled with anger. I will let you know who the ant is. With a wave of his hand, a sword appeared in Meng Hao's hand. This was a very ordinary flying sword. It was an ordinary magical flying sword that he had taken from someone when he had tricked the outer sect. However, this ordinary flying sword emitted a very unusual aura. It was as if there was an invisible breeze that lingered around the flying sword. It was formless and silent, yet it emitted an incomparably sharp aura. Invisible breeze sword. During this time, Meng Hao had wholeheartedly practiced the Samadhi celestial wind. However, this great divine ability was not something that could be practiced in a day or two. Apart from the formless breeze sword, which he had barely mastered, the Samadhi celestial wind was something that he could not even touch. However, even the rudimentary, formless breeze sword had infinite power in a battle of qi condensation. The sword slashed out like a strand of cool breeze that blew past the setting sun. It was soundless, formless, and traceless, yet it possessed boundless killing intent and sharpness. Wang Tengfei had an extraordinary background and was very knowledgeable. Meng Hao's sword seemed like a gentle breeze, but it gave rise to a feeling of extreme danger. I've underestimated you. Wang Tengfei became serious. He gathered all the spirit energy in his body and once again used the finger of death against this sword that was like a light breeze brushing past his face. Boom! The cold and deathly still light collided with a wisp of formless breeze, and unexpectedly, an earth-shattering boom erupted. The wind howled. Cold light soared to the sky. With this strike, the entire platform shook violently. The formation engraved on the platform let out a burst of rumbling, and streaks of spiritual light intertwined to suppress the raging wind. Meng Hao is actually this strong? Seeing this scene, the crowd of outer sect disciples below were dumbfounded. To be able to make me take a step back, you should be proud. With this strike, Wang Tengfei was pushed back a step by the wind. This made the proud and arrogant Wang Tengfei extremely angry. A lowly person, even if he practiced a decent sword technique, in Wang Tengfei's eyes, he was still an ant. To actually be pushed back by an ant, this made Wang Tengfei lose face. Very good. You have the qualifications to experience my true power. Wang Tengfei's face was cold, and the aura on his body was even colder. This is my family's secret technique. Even though I can't use even 1/10,000th of my power, but to deal with an ant like you, it is more than enough. Slowly raising his hand, a destructive force surged from Wang Tengfei's fingertips. Finger of the underworld. Slowly pointing out a finger, it was as if the will of death that permeated the air between heaven and earth, exterminating all living things, exterminating all living things, exterminating everything. As this finger pointed out, a faint hua-hua sound of water could be heard in midair, as if a mighty river of the underworld was condensing in this finger. This is Wang Tengfei's true power? He is indeed very strong. Meng Hao had already been warned by Li Yu, and knew that Wang Tengfei had an extraordinary background and was very strong. However, he did not expect Wang Tengfei to be strong to this extent. Brother Li said that to defeat Wang Tengfei, I must use the power of the Rain Dragon's inner core. But after the inner core of the Rain Dragon fused into my Sea of Qi, I can't use it at all. How can I use the power of the inner core? Wang Tengfei's finger of the underworld had already attacked, and Meng Hao had no time to think. Block. Block for me. Slapping his bag of holding, dozens of flying swords and magic treasures rushed out in a continuous stream. Explode for me. With an explosive shout, the flying swords and magic treasures all exploded, creating a violent wind that ruthlessly slammed into Wang Tengfei's finger of the underworld. You want to block the finger of the underworld like this? How naive. It was as if a raging tide was surging up from the tip of his finger. The flying swords and magic treasures exploded, and the impact dissipated into nothingness amidst the sound of rushing water. The finger of the underworld, which was capable of exterminating all life, continued to press down on Meng Hao. Am I going to lose? No. Absolutely not. Meng Hao's heart was filled with an intense unwillingness to accept defeat. He raised the flying sword high into the air, and the power of the formless breeze sword whistled through the air. Chop! Chop everything apart! Chop everything in your path! Meng Hao lifted his head up and roared. He leapt up and brandished his long sword. His unwillingness to accept defeat and his unyielding sword was condensed into a single slash. Boom! The unyielding will of this sword actually stirred up the inner core of the Rain Dragon within his Sea of Qi. The monarch of the skies, riding the wind, free and unrestrained. No one can make it yield. The unyielding will in Meng Hao's heart resonated with the inner core of the Rain Dragon within his Sea of Qi. A free and unfettered wind howled out from the inner core of the Rain Dragon. Following the path of the formless breeze sword through his Qi passageways, this unfettered wind exploded. So this is what Brother Li meant by transforming the power of the Rain Dragon into one's own body? So that's how it is. Unfettered and unfettered, this is the wind. Meng Hao roared and slashed out with his sword. Clang! The formless breeze sword, which was supposed to be silent and traceless, was imbued with the unfettered will of the wind. Suddenly, it let out an earth-shattering sword cry. Roar! It was as if there was a giant, incomparably violent beast, letting out an angry and unyielding roar. The sword slashed out and the sky changed color. The howling wind swept across the land, and the violent power crushed everything in its path. Boom! The will of the Yellow Springs, which was manifested by Wang Tengfei's finger of the underworld, was instantly torn apart by the violent wind. The howling wind was unstoppable. Boom! The violent power ruthlessly slammed into Wang Tengfei's body, causing him to spit out blood. He was sent flying hundreds of meters away, all the way off the high platform, and slammed into a stone pillar at the edge of the square. Cough cough. I actually lost to you? I actually lost to a lowly ant like you? Puff. Wang Tengfei was angry, embarrassed, and anxious. Coupled with the attack of the violent wind, he was seriously injured. He actually fainted from anger. Meng Hao won? He defeated senior brother Wang? The crowd of outer sect disciples was dumbfounded. Chapter 1190. Wang Tengfei had lost. He had lost to Meng Hao, a despicable person whom he had looked down upon. This made the proud and arrogant Wang Tengfei unable to show his face. After the inner sect trial by fire ended, Wang Tengfei shut himself in his immortal's cave, too ashamed to leave. Meng Hao was promoted to the inner sect. Li Yu was also promoted to the inner sect after revealing his 7th level of qi condensation. From today onwards, the two of you are inner sect disciples of the Reliance sect. In the main hall of the Reliance sect, sect leader He Luohua looked at Li Yu and Meng Hao with a gratified expression. He smiled and nodded. With so many talents gathered, the sect will be revitalized. Cultivate diligently. In half a month, the sect will open the Patriarch's secluded meditation chamber for you to gain enlightenment of the sublime spirit scripture. Many thanks, sect leader. Wasn't entering the inner sect for the sublime spirit scripture? Li Yu and Meng Hao were overjoyed by this news. You may leave. Sect leader He Luohua reprimanded them for a while, then let them go. The treatment of the inner sect is like heaven and earth compared to the outer sect. After being promoted to the inner sect, each person received an immortal's cave of their own. The spiritual energy there was 10 times more abundant than in the outer sect. The dry spirit pill was the standard medicine for inner sect disciples. There was also an ample supply of spirit stones and magical items. Meng Hao looked at the treatment of the inner sect and sighed. The Reliance sect has declined. We don't have enough resources to support all the disciples. We can only focus on nurturing the inner sect disciples. Li Yu smiled and pointed to a mountain to the left. There's someone watching you over there. Go and meet your senior sister Su. On the mountain to the left stood a young girl wearing a silver dress. She seemed to be looking in Meng Hao's direction. Brother Li Yu jest. Meng Hao lowered his head, embarrassed. He clasped his hands to Li Yu, then flew off in the direction of Su Qing. 3 days later. Boom! A huge boom came from the horizon, and powerful spiritual energy rippled through the air. A magnificent airship broke through the air. On the flying boat, a large flag was fluttering high. There was a huge golden king character on the flag, shining with a brilliant radiance. On the deck of the flying ship, a middle-aged man in a green robe stood with his hands behind his back. When the sunlight fell on the middle-aged man's body, distorted ripples appeared. It was as if the existence of this person had turned into a black hole, causing the surrounding void to distort. Beside the green-robed man stood an incomparably beautiful young girl in white. Behind the two of them, 2 rows of heavily armored warriors stood neatly on the flying ship. They were all expressionless and gave off a cold aura. Which great figure has arrived? The commotion caused the Reliance sect disciples' faces to fill with shock. None of them dared to breathe too loudly for fear of offending someone important. Greetings, young master. The middle-aged man led a group of heavily armored warriors toward a mountain peak in the Reliance sect and bowed. His voice was vast and mighty, and his aura was heaven-shaking. Boom! The door of the cave mansion on the mountaintop suddenly burst open. Wang Tengfei gently stretched his sleeves and stepped into the air, boarding the luxurious flying boat. So, Senior Brother Wang's background is so frightening? The Reliance sect disciples were dumbstruck. You'll always be an ant. Wang Tengfei stood at the prow of the airship with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked coldly at Meng Hao and laughed coldly. I may have suffered a setback, but my current height is something you will never be able to reach in your lifetime. In my eyes, you're still just an ant. With a wave of his sleeve, Wang Tengfei followed the white-robed young girl into the cabin. The young master is magnanimous and won't bicker with you. However, if I don't teach you a lesson, you won't know the height of the heavens and the depth of the earth. The middle-aged man at the front of the flying boat gave a cold snort and looked over at Meng Hao. His gaze was as sharp as a sword. Meng Hao felt his soul explode with a shocking roar, as if the entire heavens and earth were crushing down on him. You've gone too far. Li Yu suddenly appeared in front of Meng Hao, blocking the Divine Will attack from the deified Divine Will. Wang Tengfei was a Tao protector, and he had used the power of Jin Dan's Divine Will to attack Meng Hao with his gaze. Even if Meng Hao didn't die, he would be branded with an inner devil of terror. His path of cultivation would be cut off, and he would never be able to advance again. Considering the power of Jin Dan, to use such a vicious attack on a cultivator of the 6th level of Qi condensation, this was going too far. You dare to use divine will against me? Don't blame me for teaching you a lesson. Even though Li Yu had sealed his cultivation base, the quality of his soul was still unimaginably high. Meng Hao met the gaze head-on and did nothing to block it. He allowed the divine will to slash into his soul. Puff! It was like an egg hitting a rock. When the divine will slashed into Li Yu's soul, it exploded, and Li Yu coughed up a mouthful of blood. Yu. The middle-aged man stared at Li Yu in astonishment, his face pale. He quickly used his spiritual power to drive the airship away, and without looking back, he fled. Brother Li Yu. Meng Hao stared at Li Yu, dumbstruck. His heart was filled with both gratitude and shock. What kind of person was Brother Li? How could he block that man's divine will attack, and even injure him? Many thanks for saving me, Brother Li. Meng Hao was extremely grateful that Li Yu had stepped forward to save him. He quickly bowed and expressed his thanks. My soul has a mark left behind by an elder. Wang Tengfei, the Tao protector, attacked my soul and triggered the mark. Because of that, he was injured. Jin Dan is an expert. I don't have the ability to injure him. Li Yu casually made up a reason to fool him. This explanation wasn't meant for Meng Hao to hear. It was meant for the ears of the Reliance sect leader, He Luohua. Back when Wang Tengfei had attacked the Reliance sect, Li Yu had pointed at him, and Wang Tengfei had retreated in defeat. Of course, this didn't escape the eyes of sect leader, He Luohua. He Luohua had long since known that Li Yu had an extraordinary background. With the Reliance sect in such dire straits, a disciple with an extraordinary background like Li Yu would be of great help to the sect. He would be the hope of the sect's continued existence. Otherwise, Wang Tengfei wouldn't have been able to enter the Reliance sect so easily. So it was an elder who left a mark on his soul to protect him. He Luohua nodded his head and then sighed inwardly. I know that a disciple with an extraordinary background like this joined the sect for the sublime spirit scripture. But with the Reliance sect's current situation, it can't be sustained without outside help. Entering the Patriarch's secluded meditation chamber to gain enlightenment of the sublime spirit scripture. Over the years, countless disciples have entered, but none have been able to truly gain enlightenment of the sublime spirit scripture. Even if we give him a chance, it won't be a big deal. Patriarch Reliance was in the decline of spirit severing, and hadn't appeared for many years. The Reliance sect was like the setting sun. Li Yu had an extraordinary background. Even if he couldn't gain enlightenment of the sublime spirit scripture, he would still have some ties to the sect. If the Reliance sect was ever in trouble, perhaps it would be a way to survive. He Luohua sighed, then turned and entered the Immortal's Cave. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.